My hair's all greasy. I was like golfing right before this. I just got back from Japan, so I've not swung a club in 3 weeks, and it's so bad. I got to play tomorrow too. My buddy's like a stick too, and he wants to play for money, so it's gonna be tough. Yeah, what to say? I was actually planning on like doing another react follow-up to FeebleKing's video like long before the DLC came out, because after like his in defense of Elden Ring video, I was like, okay, like at least now he understands how the bosses work, and I was very curious to see like how he would take that, apply that to the DLC bosses, and like see how he'd enjoy it. And apparently I was wrong. So I guess I was mistaken that he doesn't quite understand the bosses, and everyone's been exaggerating, saying it's like the worst video ever. So I feel bad about it, because like I wanted it to be like a positive video. Oh well, I don't really feel bad like reacting to the same guy twice still though. I think if anyone understands like engagement, I think it's FeebleKing. Too hard, bosses too hard, #1 problem. Like, so I don't feel too bad. But this is not gonna be like some sort of slam piece. I don't really care to like put down FeebleKing, you know. Let's just try and understand why some people don't like this DLC. Let's try and be open-minded, chat. But I'm gonna try and offer some constructive criticism, not of like his video, but like maybe of like how I enjoyed the game, or like I might play devil's advocate a little bit too.
In a games industry full of disappointment and mediocrity, FromSoft stands out as one of the last pillars of excellence. Like many others, I looked forward to Elden Ring's expansion more than any other new game release, because I knew that FromSoft couldn't let me down. And unfortunately, I was wrong. It gravely hurts me to admit this, but Shadow of the Erdtree is by far the worst Miyazaki-led Souls
the cookbook what montage
like title to date. It takes every flaw present in Elden Ring's exploration and boss design and makes them several times worse. I'm certain that a lot of the negative discourse surrounding Elden Ring's expansion will be centered around the overly difficult bosses, and while I agree that the bosses are overtuned and not fun to learn, I also think the difficulty discussion is overshadowing the DLC's biggest flaw. Immediately when I started playing Shadow of the Erdtree, I could feel that something was not right, and I think a lot of people aren't admitting it, but they could feel it too. On my first playthrough of Elden
So he thinks that the worst problem is not the overtuned bosses, but the world?
Ring, I was immediately hooked. Yet now in the DLC, I could not contain my boredom. Much to my dismay, I realized that the worst part of the DLC is not the bosses, it's the exploration.
He looks like he's struggling with the Rellana beam attack, the phase transition. On that last clip where he got roll caught by the 4th one, you just have to early roll the 3rd hit. When it comes to like boss attacks, like multi-hits especially, like with Rellana's quick 2 swords and shit like that, if it's just one attack like that, there's usually 3 solutions. One is to like roll in a way on the first one. If there's like 2 attacks that are in quick succession, right, where you can't barely roll twice, right? The 3 solutions are you early roll the first hit, and then you have time to roll the second one, which you can with that attack, or you roll in such a way that you positionally dodge the second one, or you don't roll. If attacks come at you faster than you can roll, chances are the solution you should immediately be thinking is either strafe or jump, right? And in that one in particular, you can jump, but you jump over the 3rd one, and then you're out of range of the 4th one. It won't track you.
There are 2 types of rewards.
Oh, I'm like watching this in like, oh, I thought I was watching in 360.
For exploration. Intrinsic rewards that are inherently enjoyable, like a beautiful view or a fun boss, and extrinsic rewards like increasing character stats. Shadow of the Erdtree has inconsistent intrinsic rewards and downright terrible extrinsic rewards. The majority—
So like intrinsic rewards, he means like the views, I guess, like the visual gorgeousness of it, which is kind of like, I do like that as a reward. Why do people look at paintings, right? When you can just look at a beautiful thing. Like that is a form of art. Plus also for me, like I said, big music guy, you couple that with some good OST and just, oh. When you get good visuals plus good music, makes me happy, man. I think the exploration is overall better than the base game. Yeah, I think it would depend on your preference, right? Because like in the base game, I was like, fuck, there's like way too much shit to do. I don't want to like spend so much time playing this game. I'd rather like keep it a little bit tighter. Not to say I didn't enjoy the dungeons. I don't want to do that many dungeons. I don't want to have like a 100-hour playthrough, personally.
Rewards in Elden Ring.
So if you like it a little bit sparser, then yeah, you would like the DLC better.
Right, terrible extrinsic rewards.
Oh, okay. So intrinsic rewards, he says, is inconsistent. So I guess he means that like, I mean, I'm assuming he's going to explain, but I guess he means that like some areas don't look as good as others.
Majority of intrinsic rewards in Elden Ring's base game were underwhelming, and then a small amount were truly great. Typically, after riding your horse past a ton of reskinned enemies for 6 to 8 minutes, you might find a linear cave with mostly one enemy type and a reskinned boss at the end. Also, many of the extrinsic rewards you would find in these dungeons would be useless for any one build, such as a melee fighter finding spells. The glue that held this uneven experience together was the
I think he's like arguing this point against the base game as well, that like the extrinsic rewards are bad, because he's showing all the like base game footage. It's not right to say in my mind that the extrinsic, I guess we're calling it that now, rewards are useless for a build, because that's not true. They're only useless for his playstyle. Everyone can use spirit summons. Most people can use most spells. Like usually a lot of the good spells are like low stat investments, that kind of shit. Like weapons and shit. There's nothing against respecking. I did that a few times where I'm just like, I want to try these weapons now. There's like 3 weapons that look pretty cool. They're all like the same kind of stat distribution. I'm going to respec my build and try those for a while. Weapon upgrade materials are not useless because you just want to main one weapon, right? They're useful for everyone. You can have a fucking entire inventory full of weapons that you can try and swap to, especially if you want to try out different strats for your bosses, right? I don't know. And like people always gloss over the runes as extrinsic rewards. There's more intention to getting runes than getting like a health buff, right? Like you can use them to level however you want. Plus they're not just for leveling. Like you can use them to upgrade weapons. You use them to buy consumables. You use them to buy new weapons. Like you use them for things, right? I guess we'll hear more.
Universal extrinsic reward of runes.
But I just want to say, like, I feel like it's not accurate to say that they're useless for your build, because like they are useful for your build. You're just choosing not to use them. So like the game gave you an extra tool to tackle the game with, but you just chose not to use it.
To increase player stats. Even if a cave was boring and had a reskinned boss, at least I leveled up. Like many players, I started the DLC around
Okay, so he's talking about runes. He also said that there's like just a bunch of reskinned enemies, but like Elden Ring has a pretty big like enemy variety. It's just you do see them reused here and there, right? But if you look at the actual like variety of enemies, like the only other game that would come close would be Dark Souls 2. But I feel like Dark Souls 2 has like faux variety where it's like there's lots of different enemies with kind of cool designs. At the end of the day, I felt that DS2 enemies all do the one same attack, and that is swing, swing, wait, swing. Even the bosses do that. They all do that. It didn't feel like I was fighting different enemies. They look different, but they all like did the same basic shit for a lot.
Even if a cave was boring and had a reskinned boss, at least I leveled up. Like many players, I started the DLC around level 150, meaning that I had already hit almost all.
Like you could say that Sekiro is awful for reskinned enemies if you want to like make that a bad thing, right? I really enjoyed fighting the Sekiro enemies because like I just treated all the enemies like a boss, like the purple shinobi, the nightjar shinobi, all those guys. Kind of cool mentality to take, and I never got tired of fighting them. But if you wanted to just say reskinned enemies are bad, Sekiro is like the worst for that, right?
All of the caps on my stats, and I would get highly diminished returns for increasing my levels. Furthermore, I had max healing, a fully upgraded weapon, and tons of...
Hold on, some on-screen text I missed.
Furthermore, I had max healing, a full...
Holy shit, that was quick.
Diminished returns for increasing my levels. Furthermore, I had...
And I think he mentioned that, like, you get diminishing returns because you need more runes to level up, but, like, that's just kind of how experience works in, like, every game I've ever seen or played. I guess we could talk about if that's bad or not, but I don't know. It wasn't like strange or like bad to me. My healing potency was 3 below the max, but it doesn't matter since sacred tears aren't rewards in the DLC. Oh, he wanted like golden seeds and sacred tears in the DLC. But I guess it is kind of like post endgame content, right? Like you should have already explored that in the base game. Why aren't there shadow tree blessings in the base game, you know? It's kind of like separate. I guess you could argue that like they're not useful in the base game, but I don't know. Like you're meant to play this after the base game, so.
Furthermore, I had max healing, a fully upgraded weapon, and tons of upgrade materials. So all of those rewards had also become useless. Fromsoft understood the problem of useless rewards.
But it's not useless, right? Like it's because he's using the same weapon I did. What the hell? Godslayer Uggs. It was so good for the base game, but I don't think it did that much extra damage. I guess maybe Miquella and Radahn. I think it would help you. Maybe Messmer it does extra damage to as well. But yeah, like it's not useless because you decided I only want to use one weapon. You need a lot of upgrade materials to upgrade multiple weapons, right? And it's fun to use lots of different weapons. It's fun to play a totally different play style in your next playthrough, right? With a different weapon. and you need fuck tons of upgrade materials to do that. So that's why they give you a lot of them. It doesn't make it useless because you just want to use one weapon. It is useful. You're just choosing not to use it, right?
So they added 2 new items, Scadu Tree Fragments, which I believe are supposed to be called Shadow Tree Fragments, and Revered Spirit Ash. Shadow Tree Fragments increase all player stats in the DLC world only, while Revered Spirit Ash increases the strength of summons and your horse.
I'm less articulate when I'm sober. I probably am, actually. And like, I'm tired of being ruthless too, because like, a lot of those videos I made at the time of like all the like the Anderson response and all that shit, I was pissed off hearing the same shit every day and the same sentiment over and over and over again. So I was like very fed up. So like I'm less fed up now because like people like I looked at the comments on this video, like this man is getting eaten alive in these comments, bro. There are people who know how to like enjoy the game for themselves, give a little bit more pushback to these kinds of criticisms, right? It was kind of like reassuring to me that like, okay, I'm not the only crazy person here. There is something to enjoy here. Feels like people are like thinking for themselves and not just blindly like parroting their favorite content creator and stuff like that. Like I said in my videos too, you don't have to agree with me at all. The truth lies in the middle ground. You have to like come up with your own opinions about stuff, right? Don't use my videos or someone else's videos that are like hour plus long as a shield for having your own opinion or like critically thinking about things that you enjoy or don't enjoy, right? Instead of, oh, I need someone to tell me if this is good or bad, just like ask yourself, why do you find things good or bad? You know, look inside yourself. People like FeebleKing don't see trying out new playstyles and new weapons or spells as actual rewards, which is a problem. It is a problem, yeah. It is really fun to play with different weapon types and stuff like that, especially all the new ones we got, dude. Like great swords, great katanas, backhand blades, fucking sick. I wonder what's like stopping them. I guess they're kind of like me. Like I just feel comfortable with Uggs and I just use it, but I really enjoy that. But I want to like, if I play it again, I want to use a different weapon, right? Every time. I wonder what keeps people from like trying new weapons. Cause like in my mind, there's nothing really holding you back. Like you get tons of upgrade materials. You have so many excess runes, especially like if he's getting 300 to 500,000 runes per boss and he's not leveling up at all anymore. Why not use that to level up a weapon and try something new? Like I don't really understand like the barrier to like trying new weapons, that kind of stuff. So I don't know, or like respecking even. I wonder where like the mental barrier would be like in the game. Like there's, in my mind, there's nothing really stopping you. Because like in Sekiro, for example, I understand the mental barrier of people not using prosthetics and how fun they are and dynamic because of the spirit emblem system. People are scared to run out. And in the early game, you usually will. I think that teaches people inadvertently to like not use it, or it encourages that play style anyway, to just only deflect. So I understand that, but like here, I don't know. I don't really see how the game would hold you back from wanting to try different weapons. Okay, we're talking about Shadow Tree Fragments and Revered Spirit Ash.
Player stats in the DLC world only, while Revered Spirit Ash increases the strength of summons and your horse, meaning that Revered Spirit Ash is largely useless for someone like me who doesn't use summons. So now instead of every...
Again, I guess I don't want to harp on this too much. It is useful for his build because he can use that, but like, he's just choosing not to. Spell's so useless because I don't use spells. What is even the point? Vigor is useless because I'm doing a no-hit run. True, it's a useless stat. Damn, Vigor is the best stat in the game. I have no fucking idea why people don't level Vigor. It is literally by far and away the best stat in the game every time. Anyway.
Enemy and tons of upgrade items being important rewards for exploration. There's only 1 or 2 items in the entire game that are important, and for some inexplicable reason, they are not the rewards for completing dungeons. You get these items by wandering around the open world and finding statues. As Video Game Donkey said, it's Paper Mario Sticker Star all over again. Outside of Shadow Realm Blessings,
only 1 or 2 things are kind of useful. Okay, how many rewards are there? You have Shadow Tree Fragments that increase your health, damage, and damage negation. You have the Spirit Ashes for people, like lots of people summon in this game. Lots of people. In fact, I always like correct people that I don't stand by that thing of like getting rid of Spirit Ashes, like I said in my original video, because a lot of people afterwards told me like, hey, I never played the Dark Souls games. I love the summons. I find it really fun and challenging. I'm like, okay, these people are having fun doing that. More power to them. I don't have to use Spirit Summon, and I don't have to use it as an excuse to justify like, oh, the bosses are undodgeable because summons exist. It's like an uncorrelated thing. Okay, so there's shadow tree fragments. There's those. The horse buffs are nice. What else do you get? Weapon upgrade materials, so you can use more weapons. You get the spirit summon upgrade materials too. You get runes, which can be used for leveling, buying items, buying weapons, upgrading weapons. You get new armor. You get new weapons. You get new spells. A lot of people play hybrid builds and pure mage. It's really fun, actually. Am I missing any rewards? What else do you get? Crafting materials. Plus, if we're talking like intrinsic rewards again, going to a new area or like a dungeon and getting to fight new bosses and new enemies, that's a reward in itself as well. Also, like, there's some puzzles in the dungeons now, more so than the base game. So that's satisfying in its own right. Did he also complain that golden seeds and sacred tears are mainly exploration rewards? No. Talismans. Thank you. Talismans are so fucking good. They change your entire build, and they're fucking all pretty broken, and you could switch them out for free. Talismans are so strong. Ashes of War. You get more crack pots. Oh, cookbooks. The consumables are fucking super strong in this game. Physic tears. Thank you. You get more physic tears, which can, again, completely alter the entire game. Some of them, I would say, especially the DLC ones like Deflecting Heart Tier. But like, you know, they're just so good. Crimson World to just like heal off of Elden stars. Like, that's crazy. So like, I feel like that's a lot of different like types of rewards. To me, there's like enough excitement to like find lots of different things in any dungeon, right? In any dungeon, you're probably getting like 5 or 6 different types of these rewards, maybe more. Quests, yeah, not a big focus of these games, but the quests are good, the ones that you get. But again, always been obtuse, which some people don't like. All right, let's keep going.
A few new talismans, and if you decide to build switch to a new weapon, all extrinsic rewards in the DLC are worthless.
It's kind of funny how I phrase that with like, if you ignore this, 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 and this, then it's all worthless. You don't have to build switch to a weapon. Any given build can use like 30 or 50 like weapons. You don't have to switch your build to use different weapons, especially when we're talking about like infusible weapons. This is again why I said strength builds are the best builds in the game, because you can use fucking just about every weapon. And with the bell bearings too, bell bearings is another reward I forgot about. So you can buy more stuff. It makes it annoying actually to like make a PvP character, but he doesn't play the multiplayer. So I went through a rune level 90 and I still had the stats for 90% of the weapons. I think that's his complaint though, Hark, is that like the Shadow Tree fragments are not the rewards for the dungeons. They're the rewards for exploring the world, and he doesn't like that.
To build switch to a new weapon, all extrinsic rewards in the DLC are worthless. Now whenever I explore and see a purple item, I'm always thinking, please be the only important item in the game, and then I'm sorely disappointed when it's just another cookbook and I wasted my time. While playing the DLC, the same important question kept coming to my mind.
Like I said, he doesn't use a lot of the in-game mechanics, but I'm curious as to see like which areas he liked intrinsically. Honestly, that is the most satisfying part for me, is just looking at this vista and having some nice music.
Why is a game with mostly useless rewards open world? The whole point of the open world genre is exploring to find rewards. What point does the open world serve if I have no reason to explore the mediocre caves? Unfortunately, it gets worse, as the intrinsic...
Again, like, they're not useless rewards. He just doesn't use them. It just seems like a stretch, right? But yeah, I would agree that I don't like open world games because I'm not particularly a big exploring guy. That's the other thing too. I find people take this shit so seriously when I like do reacts. There was one guy who commented yesterday who was like, bro, this guy is just so immature. My guy. We are arguing about video games on the internet. That is just inherent. Like, do you realize how silly all of this is? Like, we are arguing about a video game. Like, don't take it too personally. Every open world game I played has worse rewards than Elden Ring. See, I would agree now, but like, I haven't played that many open world games. I played like GTA, Red Dead Redemption, Skyrim, Oblivion. I don't know. Is Twilight Princess open world? I like that one. But like, did everyone complain in Twilight Princess? There's just no shit to do in the open world. That's also very empty. Shadow of the Colossus is literally completely empty. What do you get in Skyrim? Skyrim has a fuck ton of side caves. You're fighting Draugr for like a fucking hour. And then you get like a buffed like word of power or something like that. But it's like, oh, I don't use the dragon shouts in Skyrim because that's cheese. So it's a useless reward. What do you get for like beyond that? For a reward in Skyrim, you get maybe a unique weapon, but probably like a shit ton of iron daggers, 900 apples, a fucking shepherd's pie, a book that sells for 5 gold, 2 fucking potions that are like very obscure. I understand the complaints about open world and exploration because I just don't like open world. It's very like negative connotation to me. I don't want to spend the time exploring open worlds. I just don't. Okay, can you guys help me out? What is an open world game that has more satisfying rewards than this? That dynamically everyone can use, every build uses it. There's like, maybe it's a game that has no builds. I don't know, like Breath of the Wild, but like how many rewards do you get in Breath of the Wild? You just get basically Shadow Tree fragments, right? Because you just get health or stamina. Do you get anything else? Witcher 3, but everyone plays the same build. Oh, I actually dropped Witcher 3 after like 15 hours. I was like, this game's too big. I'm not fucking doing it. Outer Wilds, I have not played yet. Yeah, like Korok Seeds, whoop-de-doo, I guess. I don't know. Like I just don't know of an open world game that gives you better variety and quality of rewards than Elden Ring. Like, I just don't personally. Armor with no stats and stuff to make heals. Oh, but you use crafting in Zelda, so I don't craft. Terraria, very different type of game, but maybe. Fallout New Vegas is open world. Yeah, you get weapons, but Fallout New Vegas is like hard carried by its dialogue and story. Fucking sick game. I think he just doesn't want it to be open world. Yeah, I kind of get that. I would say he's unfair to like the rewards big time, but like I agree. Like I never wanted this game to be open world. When they said that before the game dropped, I was pissed. But I came to appreciate how they had a unique take on open world. It's so fucking gorgeous, and you have all the points of interest you can see naturally because of all the verticality. The verticality. Without having to do like a fucking climb the tower minigame. I haven't seen an open world do shit like that. I guess let's just carry on.
Rewards for exploration are also worse than in the base game. As I'll get into later, many of the Remembrance bosses feel less like rewards and more like punishments, and the mini-boss quality is terrible. Most cave or catacombs bosses are just buffed up normal enemies that don't pose much challenge, and when it's something else it's usually an NPC or a reskin Death Knight. The base game also had normal enemies as dungeon boss.
How many Death Knights are in the game? I only fought one. There's 2. Do they have different weapons, or is it just the same? Is it literally the same, or is it like a reskin? One's Twin Axe, one's a Great Axe, and they're different fights. Oh, that seems unfair. And the Death Knights are fucking awesome. I agree. They're pretty sick. They're simple, and you can backstab them, but pretty fucking cool. Different move sets as well. I don't know. It just kind of strikes me as him like kind of downplaying the rewards. I would love to hear like, what kind of rewards would you want that would be like satisfying? What would make it a satisfying reward at this point? New talisman pouch would be broken. Be so broken. More flask upgrades, I guess, but like you have to have a limit at some point, right? Like how many flasks do we need? I already feel like 15 is kind of a lot, which is why I liked how they still gave us the high flask, but like there was bosses like Melania healing and Moog transform took away some of your healing. I like that. Some people could think it's a cheap gimmick, but I think it's done way more thematically and in a cooler presentation than just like going into a cursed chalice dungeon and having half your fucking HP or like a fraction of it, right? A plus 10 bell bearing, that would be crazy, but that would be like a one-time reward, right? So that'd only be for like one dungeon. I guess fair, you could always want more, but like I was saying, like I don't know another game that gives me a better like reward experience for exploring. I can't think of one.
The base game also had normal enemies as dungeon bosses, but that worked better since you were a low-level character fighting an endgame mob, as opposed to a high-level character fighting a normal enemy. They also
the Everjails in the base game had a lot of NPC encounters, like a shit ton. I agree the NPC encounters aren't great. It's not as fun as PvP, and like you just end up breaking their AI most of the time. For example, NPCs are the only enemies that actually input read your attacks. They're the only ones. And what that means is they're just like a boss where they input read spells and consumables. So if you cast Rellana Ice Moon at Melania, she will dodge and then just walk straight into it. Like at the second you cast it, she dodges and then just waltzes into it, breaking their AI. Again, input reading is not bad because it's unfair to the player. It's bad because the player can break the boss's AI. So with NPCs, you can just do charged R2s. They will backstep when you start charging it, and then they will just sprint headlong into the fully charged R2. Rinse, repeat. He's saying you're leveling in the base game, but in this DLC, you're not leveling. I leveled in the DLC. I just went into it at 125. Errol said you went in at level 90. I leveled from 125 to 166 while playing the DLC. So it's not like you're not leveling unless you're like actually level 700 or 713, whatever the max is, right? If he doesn't PvP, why did he stop leveling? I don't know. Instead of like, oh, this is like a mob I've seen before with more health, I'll crush it. When they have more health, you can sit down and like learn their actual moveset like a boss, right? Like I encouraged people to do in Sekiro. Just treat the enemies in that game like a boss because they're pretty well made in that game. And I guess that kind of encourages you to do that in this game for their like strong mobs. The mini bosses aren't just reskins in the DLC. Like the Death Knights and Swordmaster Ons are fucking sick mini bosses. Oh, you also get Lamenter. You get good Pinwheel. You also got that like mob, the Bloodfiend Chief that uses like Moog shit. Kind of cool. I feel like we got good mini bosses too. Lamenter is bad in my opinion. Lamenter is unique. Let's say that.
Also added forges as a new mini dungeon environment, which I do think looks cool. However, the big twist with the forge dungeons is that they don't even have a boss at the end. Similar to the base game, the mini dungeons are also lacking in enemy variety. Another reward for exploration are the mausoleums.
The forges, I would say, it's almost like what I asked for in my Anderson video of like having a unique type of side dungeon that gives you a shit ton of weapon upgrades. Because in the base game, I felt like there was not enough weapon upgrades besides the Somber Stones to try a lot of weapons on your first playthrough. Like something that you could farm. I don't think the forges like reset the stones that you get, but I do wish that the forges like leaned more into the puzzle aspect. I wish that they were like better puzzles. Because like if you're not going to have a boss, it should be like a puzzle dungeon, right? That just makes sense to me. The puzzles weren't like very crazy, right? It was like go up a gate, flip a switch, and then like the level changes. You get a max material upgrade. Also, you get new weapons in the forges. Like I got my Bayle, Ancient Meteoric or Greatsword, which also has some fucking crazy lore implications on the description. Those are rewards. And like the Smith script weapons and shit, throwable weapons. You don't have to use spells anymore. Now you have a projectile to deal with flying enemies or to hit a boss like a dragon in their head when they're out of melee range. Or when Malekith jumps on a pillar, you can now hit them with range without using spells if you really wanted to. It's kind of cool. Catacombs all look the same though. Yeah. But I still would take the Catacombs in this game over Bloodborne Chalice dungeons. Honestly, if From makes more games that are different, I would want a game that is like a roguelike almost. That's like Bloodborne Chalice dungeons, but good, like dungeon delving. Or I really want this, a fucking Metroidvania. I like Metroidvanias way more than open worlds. Something that has like different movement and stuff. The joy of movement is so good. My dream game is actually like a game that's, I kind of thought of this when I was watching Made in Abyss, but like a crazy dungeon that's just like infinite and like abyssal, like this kind of co-op system, an infinite dungeon that people like explore, like the tomb prospectors in Bloodborne. Those guys are always finding new dungeons and like sharing signs and shit and finding new discoveries and like new enemies, which is kind of crazy, like years after. So like something like that where it's like a giant fucking infinite abyss hostile dungeon that like the community maps out and explores. That would be fucking sick. That's my like dream game idea. But I have no fucking idea how that would technically be accomplishable. So it's just me spitballing here. A community mapped out world would be so fucking cool.
Mausoleums, which are always NPC invader duel fights instead of actual bosses. When Miyazaki said that
how many mausoleums are there in the DLC? 4? And it's pretty clear that those are like NPC encounters, not bosses. Not like we didn't get a lot of bosses with the other mini dungeons. We've only gotten 5 minutes in. I'm not trying to be antagonistic, but like I am trying to like just provide counter perspective of like why I enjoy the game, I guess.
Elden Ring DLC would be the size of Limgrave, I knew he was lying, but now I wish he was telling the truth because somehow the terrible rewards for exploration are stretched even more thinly than in the base game. Although I could have missed some caves in my boredom, I didn't find any caves at all in the 3 ginormous southern regions of the map. One of those regions being the Abyss, where your horse is too scared.
Items to pick up and shit are like more sparse in the DLC. The DLC does not actually take that long to traverse. It's kind of like a nice quiet moment that's visually gorgeous. And I love the soundtrack. You have these moments of like peace and calm in between grinding boss fight. It does not take that long to just ride through an area, right? I don't mind the sparseness in that regard. Like it's not that big. It's kind of like part of the beauty of these games. You are existing in a beautiful world. And more to that point, if they just like shrunk it to a quarter of the size or like half the size, just so that you spend less time walking between items to pick up on the ground, it would detract from that sense of like a lived in world, like a real world and like the atmosphere, right? You wouldn't get that sense of this is a real universe, you know, like a lived in land. So you would lose that. It would come at that expense. And like I said, it doesn't really take that long to traverse it anyways. It makes the transitions from the transition areas much more natural and smoother. That's another advantage, yeah. If we just made it really tiny, would that make it better? Cerulean Coast is criminally empty though. I will say that. That is like the most empty area save Abyssal Woods. Again, very pretty area. But how long did I waste exploring Cerulean Coast? I probably spent 40 minutes there. Cream of the crop! Like I did the jail, I did the boss fight, I found the fissure, like 40 minutes, you know, a guy like me, I work 6 days a week and away from home. I didn't feel like I was sacrificing my weekend just because I was like stuck in this Cerulean Coast. Again, it's nice to have these like moments of like quietude and like beauty juxtaposed to these like intense fights for your life with the bosses. You don't want it to just be a boss rush. Again, yeah, 1 or 2 areas kind of empty. I don't think the solution is to just like litter it with more items. If you just shrunk the world, I think that would detract from the overall atmosphere of the world.
Scared to be rideable, so I explored the regions being at all in the 3 ginormous southern regions of the map. One of those regions being the Abyss, where your horse is too scared to be rideable, so I explored the sea of reskinned rat enemies slowly on foot, only to find more cookbooks. I still can't believe that there are 3 giant regions in the south of the map that each have nothing of interest besides a single short legacy dungeon.
Jagged Peak is no legacy dungeon, just Bayle. I would argue that Jagged Peak is the dungeon. It doesn't even feel like a full area, right? It's quite linear. It just takes up a lot of size on the map. The real area of Jagged Peak is quite small. I will give him that Abyssal Woods is kind of BG, that it's like the size that it is for the amount of shit that you get for having to do it on foot. I will give him that. If it was the same size, just with more interesting like winter lantern encounters, I'd probably like that more actually. Has value as a stealth mission and little more. Yeah, there's like 2 cookbooks, but there's not like so much. Like there's like 2 split paths. And then they just loop back in higher elevation for a little bit. And there's that church in the one corner. It's not like you're going to wander the Abyssal Woods for that long. Like I spent, again, probably less than an hour in Abyssal Woods and I explored all of it. So it's not like they trick you into thinking there's more shit there. It's just 2 split paths. There's no like paths that lead to nothing, that kind of shit. Assassin's Gambit, that fucking broken Ash, bro. I know dashing is a simp for it, but that shit makes fucking challenge runs so Resident Sleeper. The Frenzy perfume bottle weapon, there's that church. Yeah, that has that. There's 2 really good cookbooks. I will agree with him though, that like I said, just for the size, the amount of shit there is, and having to do it on foot being the biggest thing, I'll give him that. Madness Fists, fucking busted. Yeah, totally. Like there's rewards in there, but again, he doesn't like any rewards. It's not gonna like, you know, change his mind about that. And it's completely optional. But I guess like a DLC is optional inherently, right? But it gets you to Midra's dungeon. True. I wouldn't really consider Stone Coffin Fissure a legacy dungeon. It's so short. I wouldn't hold it to the standard of a legacy dungeon. I would just say it's a platforming puzzle. Like it doesn't really feel like a legacy dungeon. People are saying, is $40 worth it? I would say so. I don't think there's ever been a game that gives you so much like good content as Elden Ring, in my opinion. $40 feels justified. I know lots of people that spent easily 80 hours playing the DLC. For me personally, I spent probably 40 hours playing the DLC in one playthrough, just one. That's still like $1 an hour. When I was in Japan, I was playing I was going to those like 8-story like arcade game fucking department stores and shit like that with like crane games and stuff. Me and my buddy like were trying to play fighting games and it's like $2 per round each guy. We played $4 for a fucking round of a fighting game. $1 an hour seems not bad. Yeah, I don't know. Calling Stone Fissure Coffin a legacy dungeon, it just doesn't sit right with me. If there's what other for legacy dungeons then? You have Shadowkeep, Enir, Ilum, and Bellerad. Castle Enzis is more medium type, but it's pretty deceptively big. So let's say round up 4 legacy dungeons. Midra's Manse too, I guess. But again, short, more like a medium type. Let's say 4. Let's split the difference. It would have been cool if there was more legacy dungeons in the DLC. How many were there in the base game? Redmane Castle like doesn't count, I would say, if we're going by that metric. Stormvale's fucking amazing. You have Rylakaria, amazing. I don't think the shortcut through Altus Plateau is a dungeon. It's like a big cave. Pretty short too if you know where you're going. Volcano Manor. Lanedale's fucking huge. You have Haligtree, Elfell, fucking unbelievably amazing. Bar Missoula. Is that it? That's it. There's 6 legacy dungeons in like the whole base game. The underground isn't really like a legacy dungeon though. It's just like a big cave. Caria Manor, I guess yeah, we could probably round that one up. So let's say 7. That one again is like about medium type, the size of Castle Enzis. Runestrewn. What the fuck is Runestrewn? Haligtree is ass. IMO. Fuck you, 5. I love Haligtree. I'm gonna group Haligtree and Elfell together though. Castle Morn. Again, that's a fort though. That's not a, because like there's forts in this. I would say Castle Morn's a fort. Also kind of like medium type, leaning more towards fort. So having like 3 full ones, maybe 4, maybe 5, like maybe 5. It's not the end of the world. I feel like it's a fair number.
Game, I was constantly taken aback by how absurdly lazy the DLC was. The entire game, I kept wondering what...
Woo! Woo! Absurdly lazy. Ooh. That hurts. Absurdly lazy. I don't know. To say that, especially in the context of like the current and previous landscape of all gaming DLCs, DLC just means like new weapons, pay to win weapons, weapon skins, season passes, like Warcraft, fucking COD DLCs, Fortnite season passes. Like in the face of all of that, the Elden Ring DLC is absurdly lazy. That's like, damn. Just damn. That one physically hurt me a little.
What would be on top of that large green plateau to the northeast, only to finally discover 2 tree sentinels and a fallen star beast, reskinned overworld bosses from the last game. This game also brings back dragons.
So he spent a lot of time like downplaying the extrinsic rewards. I'm kind of curious as like which areas he intrinsically liked because of the like art direction or whatever, the vibe. Shaman Village? That was another thing when we were talking about what rewards you get. In the DLC, lots of the rewards are fucking tons of lore, like juicy lore. That's another reward. It's kind of strange actually, because in his In Defense of Elden Ring video, me and Anderson agreed that we don't particularly care about the lore. But FeebleKing said, I do care about the lore, and this is why I don't like Elden Beast. Is that all he has to say about Shaman Village? From a lore context, that area is like perfect, because like you got the tree sentinels. What are they doing here? What are they guarding this area for? Oh, America. Oh my God. You know, all this cool shit. Aesthetically pleasing area too. Reading lore does not help my build. Yeah, it's not part of my build. I don't care about the lore, but pretty underrated. The recent items feature. Oh my God. I have never fucking read lore descriptions in my life. Ever. I read all the lore descriptions now. It was literally that easy. I just read them all now. This is why, like, I always say, like, I don't particularly like watching VOD videos because I don't care about the lore and the exposition that much. I'm okay with ambiguity and stuff like that, right? Or not knowing the full picture. I like being spoon-fed tiny bits of lore at once because I don't want to get lore dumped. So, like, if I watch a 40-minute VOD video, I'm like, okay, like, I get bored. But when it's spoon-fed, like, little tidbits, I can manage that. But he keeps talking about these areas that didn't have extrinsic rewards in them that he cared about. But like, what did he think about them intrinsically is what I want to know. Like, what did he think about Shaman Village? I mean, I guess he hated it.
Discover 2 tree sentinels and a fallen star beast. Reskin.
I was actually happy to see the Falling Star Beast again because I love Falling Star Beast. That's my favorite fucking non-remembrance boss. It's so fucking good. Kind of weird that it wasn't a fully grown one, honestly. I don't, like, why? Give me the cool one. Give me the cool... The only annoying thing about the fully grown one is that they're bigger and they're harder to headshot sometimes. What the fuck did Ash Lake add to DS1? Yeah, Ash Lake, dog shit area. No, but where's the boss in Ash Lake? Where's the boss? Where's the reward? Yeah, I wish they just got rid of Ash Lake just to make DS1 more tighter, you know? Should have been deleted. Plus, there's also that quest line past this too.
Game. This game also brings back dragons, and for the love of God, why? Didn't we fight enough of the 15 million dragons in the base game? I suppose the dragon remembrance boss Bayle needed a few reskinned dragons before his fight, but there shouldn't be any dragons anywhere else. There's also a few
How many dragons are in the DLC? I will say it's fair that the base game has way too many fucking dragons. They did kind of address, I mean, they literally addressed my complaint about dragons not having enough moves. They have no fucking moveset, man. It's terrible. People fight dragons the wrong way, though. People were saying when I streamed this DLC that I made dragon fights fun to watch. And that's because, like, ancient dragons, I just know to stay in front of them and play all dragons like Metyr. You just roll their fucking fist, jump their aftershock, and headshot the head. So all the dragons in the DLC had increased movesets. I would have liked even more. What I want as a dragon fight is a dragon that has real combos. So that's like just what I personally want. But they did give me more moves. And also, the dragons, like, there's the Jagged Peak dragon, interesting little encounter. There's a dragon fight. It has extra moves. There's that ancient dragon that's in the water pit, which is like a new dynamic to the encounter with the lightning spreading out in the water and you taking more damage, which is kind of sucks. I like fighting ancient dragons now. It took me a while to like learn to enjoy them. But other than that, where are the other dragons? There's those two in Jagged Peak, and then there's the two Ghost Flame dragons. One of them is like fighting a fucking huge army, so interesting encounter. And then the other one in Cerulean Coast summons like a skeleton army. Another like interesting little spice into the mix to differentiate it. There's 3 of them. Damn, did I miss one? I don't think there was too many dragons in the DLC, I guess. Jagged Peak is supposed to be like a dragon area, right? So then there's 3 other ones. And they're like lich dragons. But I definitely think there's too many fucking dragons in the base game. Absolutely. I mean, I understand them having like the different rot breaths. I mean, Abdullah was pretty cool. The ice like one could have been cool if it wasn't fucking cancerous. And the rot breath one could have been cool if it wasn't like janking on terrain all the time and teleporting. But yeah, and like they had unique differences, but like for me too, it was not enough. I always want a dragon that has combos, and Metyr does not do that because you can walk backwards for everything he does. There's one in Gravesite. I don't think I ever fought that one. What the hell? Borealis just sucks. Yeah, fuck yeah. Cool dragon, but fuck, dude, it screams bullshit. And the way his breath attack deflects in that area sucks, which is so weird because it's a flat surface. Because like even Bayle, his like fire can deflect off the walls. So you'd think it'd be good, but it's actually worse on a flat arena because it goes way farther and like it's just super weird how his breath works. The Great Katana in Gravesite. Never found it. Never found it. But sure, I'm not going to fault someone for not liking the dragon fights in Elden Ring, honestly, at the end of the day. I think it's a little exaggerated, but definitely there's too many dragons if you look at the entirety of Elden Ring. Dragon quantity is okay. Quality is bad because they're all the same. Yeah, like they do some unique things that spice up that make you go, oh, and then that's kind of it. But yeah, I have like learned to play in a way that I can enjoy dragon fights, but that definitely required some effort on my part.
Putrid tree spirits in the Shadow Keep, another boss I didn't want to see again. It's jarring to me that this game took 2.5 years to develop, yet most dungeon bosses.
And yeah, Ulcerated Tree Spirits, I'm not going to fault someone for not liking Ulcerated Tree Spirits. People hate these bosses. They can be interesting to safe spot. They are an exercise in safe spotting, is how I treat them anyway. There's lots of times where you can just stand next to a Ulcerated Tree Spirit and just like fully charge R2 twice. What I don't understand is how people don't see that 2 years for this much new content is fucking nuts. I agree. I think we got a lot. I wouldn't call it absurdly lazy. And then having it swim was kind of unique, a little cool aha moment. Cool moments. Again, most compelling fight? No. They use them, too many of them? Yes.
Boss I didn't want to see again. It's jarring to me that this game took 2.5 years to develop, yet most dungeon bosses are NPCs and many overworld bosses are reskins from the last game. I guess all of the money went into the Remembrance bosses and the Shadow.
You got like Death Knight, you got Lamenter, you got Swordmaster Ons, the Black Knights, some more Crucible Knights, Horn Knights, more enemy variety would have been nice, I guess. I mean, like the Horned Warriors, I swear to God, they have more attacks than fucking Gundyr does. Like, again, if we're talking quantity versus quality, I would rather have less new enemies with more interesting movesets that I can treat like a boss. Curse Blades are cool. It is a DLC, so no enemies from the base game would be weird. Again, this is not a sequel. This is a DLC.
But they still felt the need to make the game way too big, so we ended up with this bloated mess. Another time I was taken aback by the game's laziness was when I completed the Stone Coffin Fissure Legacy dungeon and beat Putrescent Knight, only to be rewarded with a cookbook. They couldn't even have the decency to reward me with a single Shadow Tree fragment. The only intrinsic reward that was consistently good was the environmental art. Every time I discovered a new
Okay, so he across the board likes the environmental art. Again, Stone Coffin Fisher, it kind of feels unfair to call it a legacy dungeon, which a glorified platforming section. And Putrescent Knight's a decent boss. Quite like him. Pretty simple, lots of jumping shit, pretty silly fun boss. And Saint Trina, like it's literally Saint Trina, Olier's quest line. And Saint Trina. I don't know, it's kind of weird because like I don't care about the lore, but like he said in his other video that he does care about the lore. That's why he liked Gwyn. Which I fucking hate Gwyn. I think it's the worst boss they've ever fucking made. And so it's like you do platforming for like 6 minutes. You fight a cool remembrance boss that you get and like that's the other thing. Remembrance boss rewards. You get his weapon and shit. You get cool spells too. I can't remember who did I watch like did an invasion with like pure mage with like the Midra's fingers and like the Putrescent Knight shit. They were fucking so sick with it. It was actually unbelievable. And like the fingers also like they come out so fast that you can trade with it because they do so much damage. As a mage, you can fucking trade like a hyper armor weapon. Plus, they reflect projectiles. I didn't even know that. Was it Cadmanson? I don't think it was Cadmanson. It was someone else, but Cadmanson's a goat. Like you get to fight a boss, you get the remembrance weapons, you get a shit ton of ruins, you get an overpowered cookbook, and you get the lore of Saint Trina, plus a quest line with Thialier, which gives you way more items too. Like the Thialier's needle for sleep builds and shit like that, right? Again, it just kind of feels like he's glossing over all the rewards of the game.
New region of the map, I would be blown away by its immense beauty. The color theory and the lighting is some of the best I've ever seen in video games, almost like a Bob Ross painting come to life. Of course, when actually exploring most of it, all you find are reskinned enemies, NPC bosses, and empty space, but at least it looks really good. While playing the DLC,
does look good. Like fucking the hyper saturated look. Yeah, I like it. I dig it a lot. Makes the areas feel a lot more unique too. Like as opposed to like Dark Souls 3 where it's a lot of brown and gray with no music. Abyssal Woods is my Ash Lake. Damn. You think he didn't notice Saint Trina? Hold on. Holy shit. This has 142 fucking replies. I did the Saint Trina quest and it was boring with me slowly dying 4 times before killing Thialier and getting a ring that I did not need. I didn't mention it because I didn't want to slow down the video's pacing talking about the boring stuff when obviously it should have been a Shadow Tree fragment. I guess that's like the only legitimate reward in his eyes is the Shadow Tree. Take a contentious stance about a thing with an obsessive fan base, farm engagement, repeat. It is kind of unfortunate. If you look at like video game journalism, right? It doesn't matter if you play Dark Souls or you don't play Dark Souls. Everyone knows about Dark Souls and everyone has a fucking strong opinion about it. People will always make these clickbait fucking engagement bait titles for fucking video game articles that are inflammatory because they are going to get a shit ton of engagement and because it's pretty easy to fucking troll the fan base. It's just been a thing since forever. These games are so divisive that like it's just free money, and it always has been. That's kind of just always been the state of these games. Not really like something new. Got ratioed so hard, 60%. Hold on. Oh, 41% like ratio. Holy shit. Damn. To put that in context, my Anderson video is like sitting at 80% or like 82% like ratio.
I'd constantly be overwhelmed by its ginormous size that rivals the base game. I'm certain that many will praise it for its size, but I do not see bigger as better. More so than in the base game, the DLC is quantity over quality to the max. Every time I stumbled upon a new beautiful vista,
I feel like it's the opposite, right? Because like what a lot of people were saying in the base game of Elden Ring was there's too much side shit. It's just bloated, right? That's what everyone said. Caelid's bloated, Snowy Mountaintops is bloated, blah, blah, blah. And there's too many side dungeons. So they said, okay, we'll make the DLC less side dungeons and all that shit. And we're going to up the quality on them. Make all the side dungeons have more puzzles, be longer, have some more unique bosses. And people still just hate it, I guess.
My only thought was, I have to ride my horse through every inch of this boredom to find underwhelming caves with unimportant rewards to eventually find a nugget of interesting content in the Legacy Dungeon. Intrinsically and extrinsically, open world exploration is far worse than in Elden Ring's base game. But what about the Legacy Dungeons? Could these levels give me the traditional...
So like even intrinsically, he thinks it's worse than the base game. I don't know. There's a lot of like pretty beautiful sights in the DLC. I kind of like how there's more straightforward lore moments like Shaman Village and St. Trina in the DLC, you know, instead of just finding like a statue. I kind of think the intrinsic rewards were better. Pretty gorgeous DLC. And then the soundtrack too. Ooh.
Souls-like experience I so desire. There are 6-ish legacy dungeons in the DLC, although some are too tiny to really count. I'll cover the level design of these dungeons separate from the bosses, which I'll analyze later in the video. I'm also going to separate the legacy dungeons into 3 categories, those being small and underwhelming, small and fun, and large and fun. Starting with the largest category, small and underwhelming, we have the first legacy dungeon, Rat. The enemy variety here is almost cave levels of bad with the same 2 ghost enemies everywhere, and the interconnectivity is by no means amazing. The second legacy dungeon, Castle and...
Is interconnectivity like a good thing though? Like, is it inherently just make things better? I mean, the Horned Warriors are like the big stand-up for sure.
Ensis is worse, to the point that I don't really consider it a legacy dungeon. It's more like a fort with a really difficult boss. Stone Coffin Fissure is the southern dungeon, and it's also pretty short and boring with the same rock turret enemies everywhere. Hey guys, while editing the video, I realized that the bigger issue with the small legacy dungeons is less that they have bad enemy variety, and more that they reuse too many enemies between each other and the open world, so they feel repetitive. I think I was a bit too negative in this quick analysis, which is because the small legacy dungeons weren't good enough to make up for the empty world surrounding them. Stepping it up.
Okay, so you're saying like not too bad with Rat enemy variety, but there wasn't enough extra different enemies in the open world, because then his expectations were higher for the legacy dungeons.
Up into the small and fun dungeons, we have one of my favorites, Midra's Mainz. This manor has good enemy variety, illusory walls behind paintings, and some solid interconnected level design.
If you want to go that route, does Midra's Manse have enemy variety? Because it's those fucking shamans that are like everywhere, and then there's just Horned Warriors. I guess it is like a horn scent like area, so makes sense that way.
I love it when you start from the floor and scale the level to the rafters and then have to do jank platforming while looking down where you once were. It's also really cool how you can hear a man screaming while you complete the dungeon, piquing your interest to go find out what's causing his pain. The game's final dungeon, Near a Limb, is also pretty small like the others.
I wish Midra's Manse was a little bit bigger, just straight up. I always think of like the Blazetta mansion from like Twilight Princess. That is way too big, but like somewhere just a little bit bigger in Midra's Manse would have been cool. Like Midra's Manse is a pretty good like lore point too. It's got its own little story there. The aesthetic of it's great, and it's also so nice that it's not just brick and cobblestone like castle, right?
Although I liked this one quite a lot.
Think Near a Limb's still too small for the final dungeon? Yeah, I would probably agree with that. Sometimes I find like final dungeons can be too big, but I think Near a Limb had some really good enemy gauntlets. There's a couple good spots where it's like very oppressive.
Level design wise, it's nowhere near as good as Midra's Mainz, and I think a lot of my enjoyment came from the fact that I like exploring a castle in the sky. There's only one legacy dungeon left to cover, and I saved the best for last, Shadow Keep, which is the only dungeon in the long and fun category, and this one is ginormous. It's like 2 or 3 legacy dungeons smashed into one. The best way to explain it is that it's like if you took High Wall of Lothric, the Grand Archives, and New Londo Ruins, and smashed them all into one level, then you'd get Shadow Keep. I particularly enjoyed traversing the Grand Archives section of the level, where you scale the inside and outside of a library tower in pursuit of the keep's lord. Another cool thing about Shadow Keep is that it connects to 7 different plateaus that surround it at different elevations, meaning that you'll enter the Shadow Keep, explore a little, find a coffin that leads to another plateau, then you'll explore that for 5+ hours before returning to the best level in the game, and this gameplay loop occurs several times. The only problem with this gameplay loop is that some of the plateaus, like the northeast and northwest green ones, are exceptionally boring with tons of free-skinned enemies, empty space, and no caves, but I digress. Shadowkeep is the best part of the DLC by far. It's so good that I wish the overworld was shrunk down to a quarter of its size, and that the DLC was just the Shadowkeep connecting you to other legacy dungeons, and a few small overworld zones full of things.
Again, like if you just literally shrunk the DLC, it would detract from that sense of the world, right? So you would lose that. And like I said, it doesn't take that long to traverse the world.
To find, but that isn't what we got. Although it's good that there is a fantastic level in the DLC, I can't help but feel like it came at the cost of other legacy dungeons.
Shadowkeep is pretty baller. It's awesome. It's like a highlights, like a best of album kind of legacy dungeon. I feel like aesthetically it could have been a little cooler, but it's pretty damn good area, especially for the reasons that he said.
Shrinking in size as they got less attention. This is a very big problem, as there are entire regions of the map that are almost completely empty outside of their legacy dungeon. And when those dungeons are super short, that means the only good reward for exploration isn't really worth the cost of riding torrent around every inch of the overworld's empty wasteland. So exploration is not very good, and the legacy dungeons are a mixed bag, which only leaves one thing left to talk about: the boss battles. And just like with exploration,
this is like what I was excited about, because I thought he would like really enjoy the DLC bosses now that he can approach them understanding how the bosses work in Elden Ring, and now just approach the DLC bosses for the first time. So let's see. I don't want to make this video antagonistic, but there's like this weird thing I've noticed with Feeble is that, like, he said this at the start of the video too, where it's like a lot of people are pointing this out. Like a lot of people are saying that the bosses are shit, but it's like a lot of people are saying the bosses are perfect too. Who are these like nebulous people that he's referencing? And when I was like talking to him in a comment section, he was saying shit like, okay, but like people agree with me more. If you look at my comments, like how come like there's like dozens of comments agreeing with me? I'm like, do I have to like explain like what a social bubble is? Like, you know, like obviously people that watch your content are going to naturally agree with you because the algorithm feeds you shit that you agree with. But he would take his comment section and extrapolate that to like the entire community, when he would be saying stuff like 99% of people like, or 95% of people like say that the bosses like don't make sense and blah blah blah. My Discord all agrees with me. Yeah, we all thought about it and we agreed.
a lot of people are pointing out that something just isn't right with these bosses. Something just isn't fun anymore. Some say the biggest problem is that the bosses never stop attacking, while others say their damage is overtuned, and I'm here to disagree with all of them, not because they aren't valid complaints, but because it isn't the biggest issue. In my In Defense of Elden Ring boss design video, I chose not to use healing items to prove that every boss is beatable in an aggressive playstyle without hit trading. However, this caused me to avoid the absolute worst part of Elden Ring.
I also did this by spending a year doing rune level 1 unupgraded Zweihander only, while naked.
Boss design, which is the healing speed. When fought optimally, Elden Ring bosses have a very tight flow with tons of roll catches to punish imprecise play with high damage. Once you take 1 or 2 hits, you'll already be low enough to want to back out and heal, so you'll roll backwards into the boss's roll catch and die. But let's say you actually do get out and heal. The boss can either run directly into your face and do a melee combo to drain the health right away, or they can pelt you with magic combos, which in the case of Rellana can be a 5-part spell combo with roll catches that's harder to dodge at a distance to punish your healing. I find myself on
That spell is easy to roll. You just roll the third one a little bit early, or you can jump it. Okay, I think I understand what he doesn't get then. He doesn't know when to heal. The DLC I found had a shit ton of like openings to heal. Okay, let's talk about Rellana, I guess. Her overhead attacks, safe to heal. Her ranged attack and glintstone attacks, safe to heal. Every time she does that sidestep dance, you can roll through her and she's really far away, then you can heal. He keeps saying like you get roll caught by the boss because you try to disengage. You should not disengage to heal. And that has always been true for the Dark Souls games, right? You should just heal in between the boss's combos on safe ones. Not every single combo is safe to heal on, but there are a lot. I could pretty much pull up any single of my first time playthrough like gameplay, and I bet you I found like safe healing spots for everything. Even Radahn. Consort Radahn has a shit ton of safe combos to heal on. Looks like I'm low health here. How do I heal? Dodge through, and then I heal under double overhead. safe to heal up. It was always a gamble in Dark Souls to just heal in neutral. Because like they still had heal punishes. It's just the games were pretty bad about letting you do that a lot of the time. Messmer has such long recoveries that it's so easy to heal against everything that he does. Consort Radahn has a lot of fucking heal windows as well. You just heal. You don't disengage. In Elden Ring, the stamina regeneration is so fucking high that there is no need to disengage. They eliminated that whole part of the fight where you swing twice, you get out of breath, and then you have to run away from the boss and wait for your stamina to come back, and the boss stands there waiting for you to hit it. That is not a thing anymore, which is nice. I like the higher pace of combat. There is tons of safe healing windows on all the bosses, because like if there wasn't, then there would be no attack windows either. There is no need to run away from the boss to the other side of the arena to heal. That's why all the bosses hard punish you for doing it.
Often having to spend 5 healing items just to get to full once. Now let's look at a good game.
Can we spoil Sekiro? How long has it been out for? Like fucking 5 years? I think we can spoil Sekiro.
Like Sekiro. If I'm fighting that game's final boss Ishin, I can heal at mid-range, which prompts Ishin to attack, and I have time to deflect before the heal is over. In Sekiro and Bloodborne, the healing speed feels purposefully designed so that if you get far enough away, you'll have just enough time to heal and get back into the fight. While in Elden Ring, it feels purposefully designed that if I heal, there's always a chance the boss can hit me and I can't do anything about it.
That's always been true for Dark Souls. Like it's always been a gamble to just try and heal in neutral. Because like if you could run away from the boss and heal for free, you understand that you could also run away from the boss and spam high level spells at it for free.
You can sometimes get away with waiting for a charged heavy opening to heal, but since the boss's posture bar is always lowering, I'd rather just take the charged heavy and only heal after posture break. The issue with healing isn't just a
Okay, so he knows that you can heal in between boss combos, but he doesn't want to. If you get hit, you made a mistake, you have to rectify that with a heal. And it's not like the posture bar resets to 100% if you miss one window, because the pace of the fight is very high. Unlike Dark Souls, because like I've been saying before, posture breaking has been a thing since fucking Demon Souls. But no one cared about it then, and like, oh, there's no posture bar, right? But the problem was the pace of those fights were so fucking slow that you wouldn't do it very often. But with this, it's fast enough where you do it frequently if you are optimal. And yeah, you can use daggers to reset their poise from healing. That's another good point. Also, the higher that a posture regen is, it's like the lower their overall posture bar is too for enemies like Morgoth. Like it is balanced. You can't posture break the boss if you're dead, right? Like you can't kill the boss if you're dead. Like you have to heal. I don't understand why he would prioritize going for one cheap hit over healing to full HP. He thinks that's the only way to play the game, so he's so focused on it, even when he doesn't heal at 1 HP. I guess remembering his in defense video, he probably figures that like the only time to heal is when you posture break them, and then that's when you reset your endurance. I never had any problems healing any of these bosses. Like there is so many fucking times to safely heal against them. It's his first playthrough and he doesn't know the moveset. I don't know. I felt like I'm comfortable to hit list all these bosses after just one playthrough, because like I said in my guide to end guides video, if you just have the mentality of I don't want to beat this boss, I want to learn this boss, and you take those 3 steps that I talk about and use that mentality to approach the game, you will learn way faster. If he'd rather go for a hit to do posture damage because he's afraid of the posture bar regenning, then why is he trying to run away and disengage from the boss to heal? Because then they'll heal way more posture than if he had just stayed in combat. So like it just kind of doesn't make sense. Use the kukri, but items are bad. Can't use those.
Problem with some bosses, it's every remembrance boss. I genuinely believe that if healing speed was increased to 1.5 to 2 times, a good amount of the difficulty complaints would resolve. This seems like an easy fix for Fromsoft to add, but they will never do it because they want you to die a bunch.
Like, would that make it better if healing was just for free all the time, as opposed to like a skill of like knowing when to heal? Because it also kind of reinforces the foundation of like when to attack and like learning what like your punish windows are, right? And it's not like so hard to learn. Like I feel like most people already learned this about Dark Souls. Oh, I got hit in front of the boss, just got to dodge 3 more attacks, and now I get to heal for free, guaranteed every time.
That if healing speed was increased to 1.5 to 2 times, a good amount of the difficulty complaints would resolve. This seems like an easy fix for Fromsoft to add, but they will never do it because they want you to die a bunch.
They don't want to do it because they just want you to die a bunch. That's all they want. That way we can artificially inflate our game's playtime by making the player die a shit ton, making it way too difficult for them. Prayerful Strike heals. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. An Estus IV drip.
I pointed out that the game is terrible at communicating how to fight the bosses in a fun way. They don't show the posture bar, or indicate jumpable attacks, or teach the player positioning openings with a teaching boss. I thought this was because it was too hard to teach the player game mechanics in an open world where they can go anywhere, but after the DLC I realized that I was an overly optimistic idiot. The reason why these bosses don't communicate anything to the player is because they don't want the vast majority of players to learn how to fight the bosses in a fun way. Take an example like Bayle. He has an instant...
Okay, hold on. Let's just slow down for a second. Why would the developers not want players to be able to learn the bosses? Why would the developer not want the player to have fun? What would be the point of that? Obviously, they want you to have fun. Like, if you're designing a game, like, we want players to have fun with our game. Like, that is the whole point of making a video game. Like, that just seems strange. They purposely don't want the player to have fun on purpose. Ugh, I'm getting too drunk for this. And, like, again, he brings up, like, how they don't teach you anything in this game. But again, Elden Ring literally has a tutorial. Dark Souls never had. Bloodborne does not have the fucking courtesy of explaining game mechanics to you with text. Does he want, like, hint, you can heal now after this combo? Hint, this is a horizontal attack. Hint, this is a shockwave attack. Try jumping. Like, I feel like Elden Ring, more so than any of their other games, goes out of its way to explain its mechanics to you. And again, the posture bar thing, we've already talked about this. It's existed forever. No one ever complained about it. Again, it's not the only playstyle. It's a reward for players who are optimal or are tanky.
Instant damage roar knockdown into lightning spam that he combos with melee attacks after. A challenge runner might notice the tiniest visual cue, like with how he slightly brings his head forward before doing the roar. But that cue is purposefully hidden because the developers don't want you to figure out how to dodge the damage. They want you to get hit and then spam roll the lightning and then die to a melee attack and complain to your friends about how once again they made the hardest game you've ever played. While editing the video, I realized that the main tell for Bayle's roar isn't head movement, but his right foot moving forward slightly, which is difficult to notice in the heat of battle. I would not have noticed this without reviewing my footage to make the video. This will be especially hard to see if the camera is stuck inside his body.
Roar attacks, like Putrescent Knight has it, Bayle has it. Let's consider it like Godskin Noble Bellywog, right? A neutral attack that comes out really quickly and has a hard knockdown. Yes, I do. And like, let's say Godric Storm Assault, even though that's super easily to react to, or easy to react to. Those are meant to hard knock you down, do basically no damage, and then to try and force you to panic, right? That is the point of those attacks. Are they undodgeable? No, they have tells. Even if they were undodgeable, they are like a positional correction for the boss, right? Godskin Noble cannot hit you with his Stitcher if you are standing against them. He cannot hit you with it. They go over your head. So that's to like get you back off of him. Same thing with Godric. He has nothing to hit you at close range. Same thing with Bayle. Don't go underneath this fucking dragon. I'm gonna knock you back. So there is value to those attacks. They are fucking super annoying to deal with from a hitless perspective. That's just what it is, man. It's like, it's also like positional, right? So they're trying to get you off of them so that you don't go underneath them or you don't safe spot all their attacks. Even if you don't learn the tell, what it's encouraging is the player to get their hit and then back off from the boss. That's like the purpose of those attacks, those roar attacks that stun you. Oraloo screams so much, bro. It's crazy. He like spams it. It actually like pisses me off sometimes. Godfrey was one of his favorite fights too. Godfrey like spams like those instant screams more than anyone. Does he genuinely think the reason those attacks exist is to make players frustrated and also to tell their friends don't play this game because it's bullshit. Like that was the goal. It's just kind of absurd to me that like the developers would want the player to feel pissed off and frustrated. Why would they do that? That makes no sense. And like what I said with Moog, pretend that you're the developer. Why do I want this to exist? Why did I feel the need to put this in there? When people were talking about Moog's undodgeable attack is Nihil, even though you have the tier. Maybe it was for like a sense of awe that like you're gonna die and this guy is summoning a god from another dimension that's gonna fucking kill you and your shitty little tier is cracking and splintering and you're gonna die at any second, and it makes you feel something. Maybe there was some intention to that, other than just like, let's make this damage unavoidable no matter what you do, just to piss off no hit runners. Is that what they did with Seath? Let's make you not be able to beat Seath to piss off no hit runners and to make people complain that it's impossible. That's not the intention of a video game. All it takes is like a little bit of like thought of like, what did they want to accomplish with this? Should the bosses have gap creators instead of the roars? Preferably yes, but it isn't a horrible solution. Yeah, like one attack that makes you roll backwards after you get in from their other combos. People bitch about the Elden Ring ones because they are hard knockdowns. Ludwig and shit in Bloodborne came out like so unreactably fast that it was fucking absurd. Ludwig's headbutt and shit was so fucking fast, and that's his like get off me bro attack, right? The don't tread on me bro attack. Those have always existed, but like they were more cancerous before, I would think. Bayle's hard knockdown, Godskin's hard knockdown, those don't lead into like true combos or like big damage. All it takes is not panic rolling the get up and you're good. They were tentative about it. They didn't like nuke you because of those attacks on purpose. Like how Market just jumps back when he closes the distance. Again, that was like another thing too in the In Defense of Elden Ring video that he did, where like he's like, okay, they're teaching me to circle around Market, but then he just jumps away. It's like he jumps away because they're trying to teach you not to do that like you did in Dark Souls, where you just strafe right around the boss and unload damage on them for free. But instead of being like, oh, if I get behind the boss, he jumps away all the time. I should stay in front of the boss, learn one or two more attacks of his combo, and then I can like do the hard punishes. He was like, this game's bullshit because they're making me go behind him, but then he jumps away for free. Just like a couple things. Like I feel like he missed the point of, I guess, he thinks that you have to run away to heal when you don't, and it's way worse to do that, and like that kind of stuff, right?
Fromsoft has completely lost the plot. It's no longer about making a fun game for the majority of players that is also hard. It's about hiding the intended way to play behind obscurity so that you either need to die hundreds of times through trial and error learning the boss, or you have to research challenge runner footage to learn the boss. For those of us who want to overcome the boss without copying other strategies.
Yeah, again, like, why would the developers intentionally want you to just like hate the bosses and die a shit ton of times unfairly?
It's about hiding the intended way to play behind obscurity so that you either need to die hundreds of times through trial and error learning the boss, or you have to research challenge.
Does a game have to be made for the majority of players? Like, even if you take everything he said at face value, do you still have to make a game for the majority of players? Does a game have to appeal to everyone? No. This is the problem with popular music. Pop and radio music is fucking dog shit. It's like super fucking like low effort, and it's just made to broadly appeal to as many people as possible to be commercially successful. That is not what like fucking good movies are like, good video games, good music. Most of that kind of shit is experimental and appeals to a niche audience. Even if this game was not this popular, they don't have to make this game for every gamer. They don't have to make this game appeal to my grandma who plays like point and click puzzle games. You can't make a game that appeals to everyone. Biggest possible audience equals best possible quality. Yeah. A game being popular or appealing to more people does not make it better as a work of art. And the thing is, yes, you're right, what's up. It is appealing to everyone because it is so commercially successful. I don't see this game being majority refunded, you know, on Steam or something. The game is unprecedentedly popular, so they must have did something right. It doesn't have to be popular anyways.
To play behind obscurity so that you either need to die hundreds of times through trial and error learning the boss, or you have to research challenge runner footage to learn the boss. For those of us who want to overcome the boss without copying other strategies or doing tons of trial and error, this makes the learning process extremely unfun. Pair this with insane...
He talks about this like before too, about the trial and error. Wouldn't it be like 1,000 times worse if you just like beat a boss on the second attempt? Like you didn't have to learn anything through trial and error. You could just, every attack was super easy to dodge the first time you ever saw it, and you just killed every boss in like 2 or 3 attempts. Is that a better system?
Shadows.
It's called DS3.
Die twice revival mechanic to make this start to feel fun. The reason why Fromsoft fans who disliked Elden Ring boss design looked back fondly on Sekiro was because it was a hard game that gave the player tools to help learn boss movesets more quickly. They showed the posture bar, jumping attacks, stab attacks, had fast healing speed, allowed you to cancel attacks, and gave you revives. Is Sekiro beatable without any of these tools? Yes. Would it be a...
Sekiro, I think it was worse than Elden Ring, of people complaining about how bullshit and impossible Sekiro was. Like, it was way worse with that game. Maybe, yeah, people look back on it fondly now, but like when this game dropped, people fucking hated this game. No one is gonna look back on Sekiro and say that was not hard. I think it's still their hardest game, for sure. I love how Sekiro didn't have trial and error. Many people find it very easy. What the fuck? Who are these people? Show them to me. Because they must be fucking gods then, because I struggled, man. Dude, Sekiro is fucking awesome. I love this game so much. Armored Core 6 people crapped on it. Yeah, that's the other weird thing. I have not heard these, like, it's kind of weird. No one's really talking about Armored Core, but like none of these people that made Elden Ring critiques like ever talked about Armored Core either. And like, I feel like that would be an interesting game. I hope Feeble has played it, because like that game heavily incentivizes changing your build and adapting to the situation. That is like, they just accentuated that part of their like game formula, right? Their game formula. If you can play a game like Armored Core 6, it definitely opens your mind up to like changing your build more in these games too, which is like you can just do the same thing in both the games, right? You can just optimize a loadout for each encounter, which makes weapon upgrades and runes and armor more valuable, and spells and shields. And like, it doesn't even like hard force you to switch builds, but like it's incentivized for sure. They remove that like barrier to like switching. Like the barrier in Souls games is that you have to go to a place and respec with the cost of one otherwise useless item. That might be like a mental hang up for people. Like Dark Souls 1, I feel like is not appealing based on like your technical skill as like a hitless runner and like how good you are at timing your rolls. I feel like the appeal of Dark Souls 1 specifically is using the stuff that you find from exploring to overcome unique challenges. I feel like that is the main strength of Dark Souls 1, honestly. Its world, like the combat to me is not that compelling, especially as a backstab maniac like me. The world is so good in Dark Souls 1, and like just finding new weapons and shit, different shields, different builds to overcome the bosses. I feel like that is actually more compelling than just like learning the dodge roll timings in Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1, I feel like is more like Armored Core in that sense, where it feels more rewarding the better you are at like switching builds.
Had fast healing speed, allowed you to cancel attacks, and gave you revives. Is Sekiro beatable without any of these tools? Yes. Would it be a lot harder? Of course. But would it be more fun? I think the answer is obvious. Let's say a boss like Rellana takes me a little under 4 hours to beat. The first 2 to 3 hours aren't actually beatable because I haven't learned enough of their moveset. By the final 30 minutes, the boss starts becoming fun in a challenge run, I have to dodge a billion attacks sort of way, but I had to suffer through hours of boring trial and error dying while healing to get there, which was not fun at all. This means that the majority...
So he finds that like the whole, I guess, like journey of learning a boss is bad and not worthwhile. To put it into my context, every DLC boss, I would say, took me about 1 hour to like learn to a point where I'm pretty comfortable to hitless it. And then it took me another hour of just like experimenting to like optimize it. So like when he said that the final 30 minutes are like when he's having fun because now I at least know what the boss does. Like, even though I would like basically get the boss to 0 HP, I would just die and reset because I wasn't satisfied with like my level of understanding with the boss. So then I had fun learning it even more in depth. I'm like, I want to try strafing this and this attack. I want to see if I can do a charge R2 at this window, blah, 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 like that kind of stuff, right? So like, I don't know, 4 hours, like, I guess everyone's different. I honestly, personally don't think that I'm good executionally, especially like, I feel like I would learn the boss really quickly and then struggle on the execution part for a long time. So like, I struggle with it and it's fine because I'm a streamer. So like, it's just more content the longer I suffer on a boss. I feel like it's just the thing that sets me apart is like the will to learn, just like I want to understand the boss. And so I'm just like sitting there fully paying attention to the boss. But like another thing that I learned, actually, I got this tip from like a random comment of some casual player on my like the guide to end guides video. They were like, I just use a shield and it's way quicker. I'm like, that's a good idea. So all I did in the DLC for a lot of these bosses is the first 3 to 5 attempts, I would just use a shield. So like Rellana, I would just block all of her attacks and be like, oh, that's because like I have literally never seen the attack yet. So it's like, oh, it's like 1, 2, delay, and then 3. Okay. I would just do that. I would survive. I would stay alive longer. So I would see more of their moveset. And I would like learn 70% of the boss in the first like 4 attempts, just because I would use a shield. Then I would swap to an Uggs and I would roll them and see what I can punish. And like I said in that video, just don't even try to attack the boss the first 2 attempts. Just literally observe their moves and like learn the timings. Dramatically expedited the learning curve. And the thing about Rellana is that like her phase 1 and her phase 2 are the fucking same. Radahn is the same. Is Midra the same? Midra's the same. Yeah, like all these bosses and a lot of the base game bosses are like, the first phase is the training wheels phase. If you learn the phase 1 shit, then when you go to phase 2, they just do more damage. So then like you should know the roll timings by then, right? Especially like before Rellana buffs her like chip damage shit with magic and fire. Using a shield, you can just learn it all in phase 1, come back the next attempt and like easily get to phase 2, and then you still know what's going on. The only difference in phase 2 is that she has like 3 new combo finishers. Not even new combos. I mean, one of them she can do from neutral. It's like a 4-hit combo. Almost nothing changes to phase 2. It's literally just the phase 1 combos again, but just with more damage, just to make sure that you really did learn them. It was kind of nice to use like the shield strat where you just phase 1, you're in the training wheels mode, block their attacks, then you know the timing. Like I said, when you have not seen most of the boss moves, that's when you should just be like watching the boss to see what it can do. It's like when he wouldn't heal and instead of going for a hit too, it's like, if you live longer, you will learn the boss faster.
First playthrough was not fun. Pair this up with the majority of exploration being boring, and the majority of legacy dungeons being underwhelming, and all of the 3 main elements I play Souls games for are not very good in the DLC. I feel like I'm seeing an almost cult-like response from some Fromsoft fans against the difficulty criticism. They'll say things like, "You're complaining that the games known for being hard are hard. Stop complaining, get good." I think this sentiment is so absurdly stupid on so many levels. Firstly, hard doesn't and has never equated to good game design. Mario the Lost Levels is much
It's kind of obvious.
harder than the original Mario, yet the first Mario is definitely the better game for the majority of players. Fromsoft creates entertainment.
But again, it's like with the popularity thing, like was the Mario the Lost Levels meant for every person who enjoyed Mario? Probably not. It was probably meant for the people who wanted a challenge. Games don't have to be designed to appeal to everyone or the lowest common denominator.
Sacred relics with challenges that are inherently good, because it's technically possible to do every boss hitless if you look up a guide, or spend an obscene amount of hours doing trial and error deaths fighting it. It's uncanny to me how cult-like this community can be.
Again, just from my personal experience, it would took me 1 hour to like learn a boss to the point where I was comfortable to hitless it in all the DLC, and then 1 hour to like really optimize it, and then I was comfortable moving on. Except Radahn. Radahn took me 4 hours. 4 hours to like to the point where I was comfortable, and like he's fucking really, really hard. But also like, welcome to the cult, boys. What should we name our cult? You guys have any ideas for a good cult name? The Elden Glazers. That's terminology is going to be irrelevant in like half a year. The Get Good cult, the Jonestown cult. If you can acknowledge the faults in a game and still unironically enjoy it in spite of its shortcomings, You are a cultist. You are a brainwashed cretin. It's just so weird when I see like critiques, right? Like, hey, I like this game. Oh, don't you know that there's like 3 attacks in the game that are like somewhat janky to roll or like a little bit obtuse for the average person to like learn? Dude, and you still like the game? You're brainwashed, bro. You're coping. You're coping. Wow. You like the game overall despite having a couple crappy dungeons? Dude, you're fucking coping. You're a brainwashed cultist. If you can love your family despite them not being perfect, you are brainwashed and in a cult. Yeah, you are in a abusive relationship. All of these FromSoft enjoyers sound like abuse victims to me. The cult of cope. That's a good one. There it is. The cult of cope. I will defend Bit of Chaos. That is kind of cope. That is a little copey.
Amount of hours doing trial and error deaths fighting it. It's uncanny to me how cult-like this community can be. I think it's rooted in the fact that
and like we were saying before, Sekiro and Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne were so good because there was no trial and error.
FromSoft made a reputation for designing hard games that weren't actually hard. Dark Souls 1 isn't hard, it's just unique, and it punishes people who don't try to learn its unique mechanics. With Shadow of the Erdtree, this is completely not true at
Well, like, is anyone going to look back on Sekiro and say, like, it was never hard? Like, even Dark Souls 1, do you think when Dark Souls 1 came out, like, even 5 years after it came out, people were saying it's so easy? Like, there's no way. What is this? What is the conclusion on this? You are more likely to survive a hit in Elden Ring than Dark Souls 3. Damn. There's better damage negation in this game. It's not hard if you bother to learn it, as is true with all the games, yeah.
At all. This game is absurdly difficult for the sake of being difficult. There's this Souls-like cycle where a new game comes out, people rage about the difficulty, and then a few years later, people say it was never all that hard and you just had to adapt. I firmly believe that Elden Ring DLC has broken the cycle. This game will always be seen as hard. Sure, some challenge runners might be like, oh, I fought the boss for a ton of hours, now I can do every boss hitless, but it took a ton of hours to get there, or they were looking up other people's strategies on the internet. The way I see it, FromSoft and
Again, I made this video talking about the mentality you can use to learn a boss by yourself without having to look up shit, and you can learn the boss way quicker than you otherwise thought you could have. It just kind of feels like something I've heard my entire life of, like, this time the game was difficult for difficulty's sake. Oh no, now this time it's difficult. Like, people have said this about every single game they've ever made. It just kind of feels like the same old, same old.
Encountered a problem. How do we keep up our reputation of making hard games if we aren't introducing any new base mechanics that are difficult to master, since it's still just dodge hit? The answer is quadruple the damage, double the boss health bars, and hide the intended openings and ways to avoid attacks underneath several layers of trial and error and obscurity. If you...
Whoa, okay, so again with the obscurity thing, there's no reason for them to do that. Trial and error has been how you fight all these games ever.
Hard games if we aren't introducing any new base mechanics that are difficult.
So no new base mechanics. Jumping is a pretty big, like, that adds a lot of depth to the combat in this game, honestly. Spirit summoning is a new mechanic. Guard countering is a new mechanic. Like, there is new mechanics in Elden Ring. Crouching is a new mechanic, thank you. Low profiling as well.
Difficult to master, since it's still just dodge hit. The answer is quadruple the damage, double the boss health bars, and hide the intended openings and ways to avoid attacks underneath several layers of trial and error and obscurity. If you dislike this design approach, that's fine. I don't like it either, and no game is above criticism because the developer has a good reputation. Personally, one of my biggest issues with the boss design isn't just that some bosses are hard, it's that all the bosses are over the top. Elden Ring's base game has dynamics in its difficulty that crescendoed towards the end, while the DLC is always hitting the highest note, and I don't find that fun.
Again, it just strikes me as something that people said about the base game of Elden Ring. Like, are the DLC bosses really that much harder than, like, Malenia, Malekith, Moog? Like, are they really more obtuse than just, like, any of the base game bosses? Most of them are easier. I would say, yeah, except for Rellana. Messmer's pretty fucking easy. He's so straightforward. He has such long recoveries. Yeah, Radahn, that's kind of it. The other bosses feel very traditional, honestly. Oh, and Bayle. I would say Bayle.
I find it tiring. Whenever I find a new boss, it doesn't feel rewarding. It feels like a punishment. Time to get hit a few times, try to heal, and die. I'm certain a counter-argument to my criticisms is that I should just use summons or an overpowered build if I dislike the boss mechanics. But me using split aggro or an overpowered build to ignore the mechanics doesn't make me like learning the boss mechanics. Skipping boss mechanics doesn't make me enjoy them, and I am tired of this brain-dead Fromsoft cult-like response to avoid all criticism, and
Welcome to the cult, boys, the cult of cope. We're all brainwashed cultists for unironically enjoying a video game, just because it's not the perfect game. Cult gang.
Putrescent Knight, Sunflower, Gaius, Midra, Romina and a lot of the mini-bosses are easy, but he leaves them out for the sake of his argument. Only cherry-picking the hard ones. Just super disingenuous.
Yeah, when you take it as a whole, it's kind of different. He says that he's ignoring the boss mechanics by ignoring the mechanics of the game. You know, like, it's not like he's skipping learning the boss by not knowing when to time his roll or which direction to roll. Like, he is ignoring a lot of the mechanics in the game, blocking or whatever, using an iframe Ash of War or something, or using a mixed physic. Also, speaking about Sekiro, why doesn't he use the deflect hard tier then? Because, like, if you like Sekiro, you can just play this game with deflect hard tier. Like, he thinks that he's ignoring boss mechanics by using mechanics. If you use 80% of the mechanics in the game, you are circumventing the mechanics of the game in his mind. And, like, honestly, if you legitimately do not like the game the way it is, just try the other shit, man. Like, just try it. It's still quite fun.
because you can skip some parts of it if you don't like it. Part of the reason
Again, I did not shield crutch when I learned the DLC bosses. I used the shield for like 3 attempts to like learn the bosses faster. And then I just went back to beating them with my ultra great sword.
I find it so annoying to argue with FromSoft fans is because they always start every conversation from the perspective that every complaint is your fault in some way. Get good. Miyazaki games are inherently perfect. It's so brain dead. Like,
no one's out here saying the game is like completely flawless and perfect. It's ironically like a cope argument that people use against From Software cultists. No one is saying it's flawless. It's more like there are real legitimate complaints about this game that don't get addressed and get washed away in the ocean of just like this random shit of like the healing is too slow and like I don't understand the boss telegraphs and stuff like that. There are fucking tons of problems in these games that we would love to be honestly addressed and discussed, but we can't because there is nowhere to have an earnest discussion about these games because the well of these games is so poisoned that like you can't have a good discussion about these games anywhere. It feels like no one is on the same page. No one knows how the game works. It's like ridiculous. We don't like input dropping. We don't like aim punch. We don't like how the fucking like legitimate glitches with the bosses, like actual glitches. We don't like the fucking PvP balance. Like, there are problems with the game. We done nothing changed in the DLC, and his opinion is so different now. Yeah.
They aren't individuals who think for themselves, but cult members preaching their creed. Also, if I end...
Welcome to the cult, boys. All right, my followers, now go parrot all my talking points to every corner of Reddit and do my bidding. Remember, when anyone brings up any counterpoint, don't argue with them. Just say get good and then link them a 2-hour-long video explaining why they're bad.
Also, if I end up using in-game tools to skip learning bosses, I wouldn't derive any positive or negative emotions from the bosses, and the only reason to play the game would be exploration, and I find the exploration of this DLC to be extremely underwhelming and barren, so it would not improve my experience. Before moving on,
I mean, it's pretty satisfying learning the bosses to like find new opportunities to punish them with spells and like use items and stuff like that. It is still like rewarding. And like, even if you don't want to use any of those mechanics, like you can still learn the bosses pretty straightforwardly, I'd say. Like I said, I made a whole video about how to learn a boss hitless by yourself. Go watch that. It's on the main channel.
I should specify that I don't hate all the bosses once mastered, except the ones with terrible cameras, but I really dislike learning all of the boss movesets, and they made my first playthrough very much not fun. I'm now going to analyze all the bosses individually that have moves I consider over the top. It's worth noting that this video represents my experience of fighting the bosses without looking up hitless challenge run videos, and it's very likely that I have not fully optimized all of the boss movesets and openings. First up is Dancing Lion. He starts out hard but fair, then in phase 2 he switches between 3 elemental forms. In his lightning form, lightning shocks appear all across the arena to stagger you out of your openings. This was the little sprinkle of bullshit the boss needed to have to go from fun to aggravating. His ice phase was also annoying, since with every attack, a bunch of ice damage would just appear around his body, but it wasn't too high and you could just jump it, so it was more manageable than the lightning form. Midra, Lord of...
He has this like weird thing where he prefers like phase 1 of bosses that are like essentially like training wheel phases. Like he liked phase 1 Melania, which I hate phase 1 Melania. It's so slow. Her phase 2 has way more clear punishes and free punish windows, like with real combo finishers, and her aggro is completely broken in phase 1. You have to walk up to her, like right against her, to fix her aggro, and it's fucking super dangerous. He likes Dancing Lion before he does any of the cool shit, which is like, it's like the same moveset except with just a little bit different, where like the lightning makes you position better, the ice makes you fucking jump, and the wind, I guess, makes you time it better or space it better. Yeah, like his AoEs are not a big deal. And if you already know his phase 1, it's still kind of a cakewalk. Dancing Lion does not have that many attacks to begin with. You can use throwing knives. Again, yeah, you can. In my challenge run, I don't use any projectiles though. The ice, yeah, jump attack, which he was already doing jumping attacks anyway.
Frenzied Flame is actually an amazing boss that isn't too hard to figure out. I love her design and graceful attack rhythm, and her openings are easy to find. The only issue is that Midra is...
wait. I thought Midra's Frenzy Flame form was female because of the body shape, but he's a guy.
Attack rhythm.
Damn.
And her
look at that ass.
Openings are easy.
Oh, dude, look at that chest. Look how curvy Midra is. Just like an anemic person. You see him. He's an old man. Damn, Midra's kind of built, though. Holy fuck.
Easy to find. The only issue is that Midra is especially bad at killing people who try to heal with her million spell attacks and fire roll catches. The Mother of Fingers is a difficult boss.
Again, he's trying to run away from a ranged boss to heal, which you should not do to any boss. Midra is like very fucking easy. Like probably too easy. I feel like they were afraid about overtuning a frenzy boss. The nice thing about the simplicity of Midra is that there is a lot of room for combat expression. So like pretty much all their attacks, you can roll, you can strafe, or you can jump. It gives you a lot of variety in how you punish it, which is nice.
That I find fun, but at some point in the fight, she just spawns 3 add-on hand enemies. It's so stupid. You know what would make Elden Ring great? If Godric had a few soldiers of Godric, or if we threw in a Knight of Messmer into Messmer's boss arena. This isn't a slow Dark Souls 2 boss, it's Elden Ring, and we don't need add-ons in the boss arena. Also in phase 2, the Mother of Fingers will sometimes spam spell attacks like Elden Beast, which is also annoying. Commander Gaius.
I don't know why spell attacks are inherently annoying. Especially like if you had spells, you can throw spells back at them when you're far away. Metyr is like better than pretty much every single base game Bloodborne boss. She's so fucking cool. Except for Bloodstarved Beast and like the ads. There's 3 ads that she does once in a blue moon and they die in 1 hit. And they're also not threatening. They walk at the speed of smell. So it's not like a huge deal. Better than Gehrman and Gascoigne. I don't know. That would be debatable for sure. Probably not. But like those are very different fights, right? I'm thinking of like big Eldritch horror bosses. Like better than Ebrietis? Probably. I would say probably better than Ebrietis, yeah. Like Ebrietis has that fucking charge attack too. And Metyr has the fucking laser attack, which is like the worst attack in the game.
This is further proof that horse combat sucks balls. I genuinely hate it. This is a boar boss who never lets you heal, but is
main problem is less about healing and more about how his charge attack is undodgeable on foot.
Faster and more aggressive than other bosses since you're designed to fight it.
He rolled through the boar there. If he just rolled to the right, it would have been super easy. In fact, when he does that charge up front, you actually don't have to roll. You can stand still and it'll literally miss you. And also, do not fight this boss on horseback. Like, again, horseback is meant to be used for certain attacks, not like the only way you fight a boss.
It on a horse. But the horse doesn't have any iframes, and if he dies, you have to click through a stupid menu prompt for him to revive. Eventually, I just gave up and used the horse to dodge Gaius's oversized charge hitbox, then fought the boss melee. Some people enjoy horse combat because they use the iframes in your mount and dismounting animation to avoid attacks, which I think is the stupidest mechanic I've ever seen in a FromSoft game. Yeah, I'll dodge the boss, just let me get off of the horse while his sword goes through me. That's really stupid, and I'm not going to do it. Just give the horse iframes on the dodge. Messmer is a really
Again, it's like, it just kind of seems like he's just drawing a arbitrary line in the sand. You're summoning a horse via magic from like a different dimension, like a Pokeball. Is it that insane that you get iframes from it? How is that different from you iframing a nuclear explosion or rolling through an enemy's blade? You know, like literally through it with the iframe dodge. Like, why not utilize the dismount frames? And also, you have a jump dodge to dismount. With Torrent, you can standing dismount for iframes, or you can jumping dismount for jump frames. And yeah, Gaius, I do not understand the Gaius complaints. Like, he is so fucking easy. His charge attack, if you're fighting him on melee, will just miss you, or you just roll a little bit to the right. That's it. The only difficulty is when he charges you from a really far distance. It's like, okay, let's figure out how to do this. Oh yes, I can medium roll it. It's a little inconsistent. Light rolling is free. Okay, let's try and use Torrent now, because I don't want to swap the light roll. Oh, I can just dismount iframe the charge attack. Awesome. Oh, I can jump over it. You can literally jump over top of him with Torrent on the charge. It literally took me like 5 minutes, and I found like fucking 4 different ways to dodge it. And that's just when he's charging you from a long distance. The one time when he starts the fight, and that's it.
Really cool boss. Sometimes his combos go on a bit too long before you get an opening, and while it's possible I haven't optimized the boss's jumping openings, his tracking is so insanely good that I couldn't find any positioning openings during his massive combos. I particularly enjoyed Messmer's Phase 2 snake transformation attacks, as it escalated the epicness of the fight, although his explosion into multi-snake bite attack seemed a bit like a very hard to learn attack that the developer hopes does at least some damage. On the bright side, his snake phase introduces a new opening, since every time his snake form dissipates you can land a jumping or fully charged heavy attack. Moving on to the bosses that...
Yeah, Messmer feels like a very traditional boss. His recoveries on all his combos are super fucking long. He's basically like a DS3 boss. Super easy to punish. And yeah, if you think his combos are too long, there are plenty of times to strafe dodge and jump dodge, or jump attack him. Anytime he does a horizontal attack, anytime you see a shockwave or a horizontal attack, you should think, oh, I should try jumping that. Just anytime. You can jump his sweep attacks, R2 him, and you'll low profile his follow-ups. His poke attacks are all strafeable. Little bit more precise to strafe his attacks where the flame is buffing his spear. Very doable. Pinko, I saw doing it on his stream on his first playthrough very consistently, more consistently than I did. I think the big problem with Messmer is that he suffers from like the Star Scourge Radahn syndrome, where like he starts out pretty hard, but like his phase 2 becomes really cinematic and cool, but like he becomes way easier as a result of it. His phase 2 is way easier than phase 1. Also with the snake attack, that's such an easy attack to dodge. He just punished him late, then panic rolled into the explosion. If he just didn't panic, even if he punished late, he could have just ran backwards without rolling. He would have got away from it. Plus, it's like a 4-hit combo. It's like snake, wait, snake. And then he does 2 combo finishers, but both of them have like dog shit tracking it's a combo finisher that you've already seen before that has a huge like charge R2 punish. He just misses you like on purpose in that phase. It like never even hits you. Messmer does have a lot of opportunities to strafe and jump him mid combo. Plus he's so easy and straightforward to punish the end of his combos. Messmer is like just a very solid fight.
Have higher levels of bull. It's insane that Rellana is only the second boss. Her damage is extremely overtuned. FromSoft defenders will say that you just need to level your Shadow Tree blessings, and that Rellana is like the market of the DLC. While they are technically correct, this doesn't sit well with me, because with Margit you're a weak character having to upgrade multiple progression trees through exploration to become strong enough to fight him. While with Rellana you're a high-leveled character on the second DLC boss who is stuck because you need to collect a single...
I'm not saying you shouldn't be expected to collect any Shadow Tree fragments, just as the amount you need to collect for Rellana to feel balanced is too much.
...item to improve your stats, and that just seems really lame to me. Either way, the boss is kind of stupid. Her combo extenders seem to go on...
Okay, so again, you can still level in the DLC like I did too. Like I got stronger before I got to her. I think I did her at Blessing level 2, and she was very balanced. And like the thing about Rellana is that her, like again, her phase 2 combos are just her phase 1 combos. They just do more damage to make sure that you actually learned how to dodge her shit. The only difference is she has 3 combo enders. She does more damage in phase 2, but like they give you the Spelldrake Talisman +3 in her castle. If you know how to dodge her in phase 1 where she does no fucking damage. Like in phase 1, I can survive like 6 hits from her. 6 fucking hits. That's like Dark Souls 3 level of like stat crutching at Blessing level 2. So like you should learn her in phase 1, and then phase 2 you should already know her, and then like you're just more hard punished, right? And Rellana has so many jump attack and strafe windows that she's like almost like the perfect boss. She's like mechanically way better than Lady Maria and Pontiff Sullivan. There is so many like strafe R2 and jump attack mid combo punishes you can do on her. It's crazy. And also, yes, you can get to like Blessing level 16 before fighting her.
Is insanely fast, making positioning openings
At
hard
least.
to pull off, and she aggressively punishes healing with melee attacks and spells. She also roll catches incorrect dodge roll directions with her 2 swords, making it hard to back out and heal, and she has a 5-part
Again, don't back out and heal. Heal after her combo's done.
spell combo with roll catches built in. When a boss has
That one you can roll or jump.
this many roll catches, it sometimes feels less like I'm fighting a boss and more like I'm fighting the developer. When Rellana is near death, she does a triple moon stagger chain one-shot combo that hits the entire arena. After I first saw this attack, I literally said, that's a streamer bait attack. It's made to get reactions and add an extra hour of length to the fight in case you had a good run on your hands with a one-shot that you didn't know how to dodge. There's probably some way to optimize Rellana's fight with jumping or positioning openings, but I didn't enjoy the boss with her ginormous long combo extenders and roll catches, so I did a fair bit of hit trading to break her posture and win quick.
Yeah, that's another time you can heal against Rellana where she jumps backwards. But it's like he didn't try at all to like jumping attack any of her attacks. Also, the twin moon, like you just jump it and like you die to it once and you're like, oh, it's a shockwave that hits the entire arena. I should just jump.
Quicker. There's only 2 bosses left to cover, and I saved the hardest bosses for last.
Yeah, I don't know. Like Rellana is borderline like the perfect boss, I feel like. I like more cinematic bosses like Rykard and shit. You can strafe pretty much everything she does. You can jump all of her fucking attacks pretty much. Like whenever you see a shockwave or a horizontal attack, you should think, I should try jumping that. And all it takes is like one try. Just try it one time to see if it works. If it works, that unlocks like a whole dimension to the boss. All you have to do is try one time. I prefer chiller bosses like Messmer. Absolutely. I totally get that. Messmer's just a fucking super solid boss.
Next up is Bayle the Dread. It's almost like Miyazaki heard challenge runners like me saying that Dark Eater Metyr wasn't all that hard, and he said, alright, I'll show you a hard dragon fight. This boss is almost mechanically identical to Metyr, but way, way harder. It's a dragon fight with a focus on hitting the head. Similar to Metyr, Bayle breathes fire at his feet to punish people attacking his body. He also shoots fire straight out, but to add an extra pinch of bullshit, the fire hitbox will stray a little in the middle to hit you. Where the real issues with Bayle start are in his melee combos. On his second
You can just sprint around the Dragonfire like any Dragonfire attack. I think there might be some instances where he leads it to your left or right, depending on what he does. There might be that, but you can just run around it like any other Dragonfire.
second melee attack, he makes the dodge roll timing harder by using both arms, and it's easier to dodge if you roll forward right underneath him, which means that you have to dodge his follow-up attacks underneath him with the camera stuck in his body so that it's harder to see. Bayle also charges at the player constantly, which gets the camera stuck in.
I think there's other ways to dodge that attack. I don't think they want you to get underneath Bayle. It's why they it's why they cut his leg off and they made him like laying on the ground so you physically cannot walk underneath him. Because they're like so sick of like, just stop trying to go underneath our dragon bosses. We did the bullet hell with Fortisax where he gets free lightning if you walk under. I'm like, stop trying to go under our fucking dragon bosses. So they just made him like crawl on the ground. You just fight any dragon boss like Metyr, just go for the head. Bayle, thank God. They finally gave me a dragon fight that has real combos like a normal boss. Thank God. That's what I've been wanting for so long, because Metyr ain't it, man. All you have to do for Metyr is walk backwards. You don't have to dodge jack shit for Metyr. All you have to do is walk backwards and he will whiff everything and you get a free headshot. Metyr is fucking so boring to me. Finally, a dragon with real combos. Thank God. And again, I feel like they've always upped the ante of like, stop going under our dragon bosses. And people still try and go underneath them and then say, why did they make me go underneath them and then make a bad camera? It's like, bro, you're not supposed to be there.
So charges at the player constantly, which gets the camera stuck in his body as well. Bayle versus Metyr is a perfect example of Fromsoft pursuing difficulty for difficulty's sake. Metyr's hitboxes were smaller, so you could always roll backwards from his melee attacks and keep the camera locked onto his front side.
Which was the problem, because you don't have to dodge anything that Metyr does.
But with Bayle, the camera's always stuck in his body, making the fight simply not fun. Then,
okay, if you're having camera problems getting underneath them, don't do that then. Like, you don't have to roll directly underneath them. You can roll to the right to avoid that fucking wing follow-up.
Bayle steps it up in phase 2, where he just never stops attacking. This is especially frustrating because his damage is turned up to 11, and his health bar is ginormous for an Elden Ring boss. I discovered that his lightning wing stat,
as opposed to Metyr, who had a very small health bar. Like, Metyr is just so boring because he's so tanky and like he's just completely unengaging in my mind. I think Metyr was successful in giving you that like, oh, I'm fighting a dragon feeling, but like mechanically, I do not like Metyr at all. Metyr was a good start, yeah. That's why I like Fortisax more than Metyr, because you can still go underneath them, but you're hard punished for it. And all of like the bullet hell aspect of Fortisax, it flushes you out around the dragon, so you get to experience the dragon's like full move set. Like if you're on the left, it'll do a wing attack or a turnaround attack if you're behind them and blah, blah, blah. So I like that aspect about Fortisax. Way too weak though, so low HP.
Tabs give you a rolling light attack opening in phase 2 if you roll right, which helped me with the lack of openings. I somewhat enjoyed how over the top the boss was in his phase 2 with giant explosions after his attacks, but I'll also say that it was a bit too visually cluttered for such a difficult boss. The only boss left to cover is the final boss of the DLC, promised Consort Radahn.
Bayle has some lightning shit. It just makes you better at your directional rolls. Again, it's more like phase 1 again. I don't think Placidusax punishes going behind him that much. Fuck no, dude. Placidusax is garbo. Because Placidusax doesn't have the Fortisax bullet hell effect where it forces you to always be repositioning on him. All you have to do is be in front of him, roll through his fucking claw attack, because he only does that when you're in front of him, then hit him in the ass, and then because you're in his ass, he only does the tail swipe reset, and you just rinse repeat that ad nauseum. Placidusax is fucking so resident sleeper. If you are beside him at like different angles, he has different attacks, but you'll like never see those, right? He has a very cinematic fight, which I do appreciate. Is like one of my highly valued aspects of bosses, but yeah.
I know some of you are probably expecting me to outright hate this overly difficult boss, and I definitely hate parts of it, but I'm also a bit conflicted. In a DLC that's main theme is about being difficult for difficulty's sake, frankly, I'd probably be disappointed if the final boss wasn't the hardest boss of any Fromsoft game. Also, I said earlier that one of my biggest issues with the boss design was the lack of dynamics in the difficulty. I'm somewhat okay with Radahn or Malenia being over the top to make a narrative and gameplay point. Although I'm not opposed to the ending boss having extreme difficulty, I do think that some of the ways he achieves this difficulty is incredibly cheap. First of all, he has a 3-hit slash combo that I consider to be undodgeable on a medium roll. Now, this isn't actually true. Across my 11 hours of fighting Radahn, I dodged the attack multiple times, but the timing was so precise that I could not dodge it consistently.
So it's undodgeable, but it is dodgeable sometimes. It's kind of like I said in that Guide to End Guides video, if you can do it sometimes, there's something there. So you should explore that further and figure out why can you dodge it sometimes.
You have to dodge his initial swing and the roll catch in a single roll to avoid it. I couldn't find a dodge roll.
See, he didn't actually roll the second one. He positionally dodged it.
You have to dodge his initial swing and the roll catch in a single roll to avoid it. I couldn't find a dodge roll direction trick to make it much easier.
Now, this attack is extremely tight to roll that way, to be fair.
Either way, it's obvious to me that From wanted this attack to be so difficult to dodge that it would appear undodgeable to many players, so they would die more often. However, this isn't the
I wish like chat when I played this boss didn't tell me that it was undodgeable, because like it stopped me and like brain blocked me from trying different ways to dodge it. Because the way I dealt with it is just block the first hit and then roll the rest. And you can also do that with like deflecting hard tier. You can deflect the first one and roll the rest. You can roll behind him to the right, and it's a lot easier to do when you're unlocked. You roll behind him to the right, or you can just roll to the left, like the same timing that he did, but just roll to the left, and the second attack will go over your head, and you can roll it both in one roll, basically. A lot easier to do that one with light roll, for example. Yeah, you want to complain about that attack? Fair shit. It's a tough attack. I guess I would be okay saying it's an unfair attack, even though there's a couple ways to dodge it and blah, blah, blah. Not including iframe Ash of War, shields, etc., 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 Miriam's vanishing. I don't think like 2 or 3 attacks being fucked up in the entire game ruins my enjoyment of the entire game. You need to perma-strafe, but the thing is, beard traps, like strafing left on Radahn is and rolling left is optimal for like 100% of his fight too. So I don't mind it as much, where it's not like sometimes you have to like preempt it left and sometimes it's better to be on the right side. It's basically just free to like roll him to the left for everything. So I don't really mind it. And it's actually kind of funny because like people say, oh, you just roll left, GG. That's actually a huge barrier to get over for people that play these games. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to make up a statistic like a la Feeble that 90% of people strafe right. I don't know what it is. Everyone strafes right in Dark Souls. Everyone does it. And I noticed this because of thousands of hours of PvP. Anyone that has a shield walks up to you and they strafe to your right. Everyone. No one strafes left. Fucking no one tries to dodge left. No one tries to strafe left. Everyone goes to the right side. I don't know why. It's so weird. So the thing is, in PvP, if people do that, you just strafe left and you backstab them because they strafe around you and you just like cross them up essentially. So like, it's funny when a boss is like optimal to go to the left because most people try to go to the right every time. And I don't know why. Right-handed weapons, you think that's what it is, Dash? Dodging to the right just feels more intuitive, but it's like, why? Everyone goes to the right side. It's super, super weird. But for Radahn, 100% of the time, it's good to go left against them.
2, Miquella jumps on Radahn's back and starts spamming spells everywhere, meaning that you have to play close to Radahn to get openings in without getting hit by the magic. This is all fine and good, but sometimes when Radahn turns his back to me mid-combo, I literally can't see his model through Miquella's hair, and then I die. This is made worse by the fact that Radahn is essentially delayed attack combos the boss. Every attack is delayed, and many of his combos look similar but have different timings to trick you into getting hit. That in and of itself...
Again, delayed attacks equals bad. Why is it that you guys think that for a boss like Promised Consort Radahn, that he can have so many fucking attacks and be so fast? Why is it that you never have to disengage from him? Why is it you never have to stop, run away from him, and regenerate stamina? Because the stamina regen in this game is fucking broken. You get so much stamina regeneration. And how is it that you're able to never stop fighting Radahn and have to back off? It's because of delayed attacks. The delayed attack, where you just have a 1-second pause before he swings, allows you to fucking fully regenerate your entire endurance bar, roll 2 more attacks, fucking charged R2 punish him, and then keep rolling. The delayed attacks in Elden Ring allow the player to never have to disengage. There is no reason to run away to heal. There is no reason to stop rolling and attacking so that you can regenerate your endurance bar. There is no more need for that. The delayed attacks allow you to have effectively infinite endurance. That is the point of delayed attacks. And also, if it's a long delayed attack, just hit the boss. That's a punish window. If you have the stamina, fucking hit them and then keep rolling. Like, delayed attacks are not this inherently bad thing that are like obtuse, intentionally obscure to dodge. It's just learning the timing of the attack. That is the bread and butter of every attack that they have ever made. The delayed attacks allow the pace of the combat to be greatly increased. The Miquella's hair like obscuring him, sure, there is some weird things where like Miquella's hair like obscures Radahn when you get behind him. Melania has this too, where her wings in phase 2 obscure her like body and her tells. They both have training wheel phases. Radahn phase 2 is still pretty much the same boss in phase 1. At least personally, I found that I learned the bosses in phase 1 and then phase 2 is the same shit So like even when their body is partially obscured, I still knew what they were going to do. Again, it's like what Stochastic talks about. Because your player model is in the middle of the screen, a boss's tail animation is usually their left or their right hand. So when you're behind Radahn, he's either going to start a new combo from his right hand, which you know, or his left hand, which you know. If you can't see what he's doing and he starts moving, it's like, oh, it's a left hand combo. So like if you learn his phase 1, it's not so much of a big deal in phase 2 when they start to like partially obscure their character model. But it is kind of a weird thing. Is that good game design? I don't know. Probably not. Visually obscuring the boss. Is it a huge deal to me? Not really. The delayed attacks thing, I've been hearing this shit so long, and it's like, man, why? Like, explain to me why delayed attacks are bad, because they are so fucking good, because you don't have to disengage and regen your stamina. Like I was saying, people just say, oh, the boss holds the attack for 1 second to mix me up. That's bad. Why is it bad? Because people hate getting punished for panic rolling. Probably. It's bad because I died to it. It looks unnatural and gamey. Sure, I guess we could say that. But like I said, with the endurance regen and the service that it does to that, I'll take delayed attacks all day. Especially when you're talking mid-combo punish windows, that's awesome. I think it's a net win across the board. Iframing is kind of gamey. Its game is a little too gamified for me.
All attacks should be 1 frame so there is no delay.
Yeah, no delay. Frame 1 attacks. That'll be a good move. All right, back to work.
Itself is an annoying way to achieve difficulty, but paired with me not being able to see which delay he's doing, it's just bull. If you do end up getting hit at mid-range by the magic, the particle effects obscure Radahn to make it harder to see when to dodge. I really don't like visual clutter as a new form of difficulty.
That's pretty fair. Like, visual clutter is, if it's intentional, like I said, I wouldn't consider the particles too much as like, let's block what the fuck's going on. But like Lothric and Lorien had this problem too, where they would teleport behind you, your camera would flip around 180 degrees, and then they would be in their like teleport. So like your camera would just go completely white screen because like your camera would be in the middle of their fucking teleport animation. If it's intentional, yeah, probably not the greatest, honestly. But again, I don't think the particles are meant to obscure the boss. I think that the hair on Miquella and like Melania's wings might have been intentional, and probably would agree that's not good game design. I don't see the need for it. But like the particles of Radahn in phase 2 are completely psychological warfare, just like Melania healing when hitting you, right? If you know how to dodge phase 1, like I didn't have to learn Radahn phase 2 particles because I already learned phase 1. If you know how to roll them optimally, those will literally never bother you or hit you ever, except for that one where he overheads you with one hand. That one spawns the particles directly in front of him. Don't roll straight into his body, roll left. Okay, now I figured it out. And like St. Riot and Ratatotsker were talking about this, phase 2 makes you roll phase 1 better because, oh, I have to roll left or like right instead of backwards or into him. And it's like, oh, this makes phase 1 easier. Once you realize that like they just don't hit you, it's such like a non-issue. It is more visual distraction, but I don't know.
Also, Miquella has a 2-shot grab attack with an oversized hitbox that kills you at any health if you get hit twice. A difficult Fromsoft boss would not be complete without a terrible grab hitbox.
Oh, come on. That was an early roll, brother.
A difficult Fromsoft boss would not be complete without a
Also, when he was talking about Bayle, like not understanding his roar tail until he saw his footage, Jacob Geller mentioned in his Sekiro video, and I thought it was a great point. Every fucking person has access to OBS and recording software, or like NVIDIA software, or fucking Windows, or whatever it is. It is crazy. And I have learned this from golfing. Your feel and what you are doing compared to what you are actually doing is literally night and day. In golf, it is massive. What you think you are doing and what you are actually doing has nothing in common. Like nothing. It is helpful for this game as well. If you don't want to look up guides of challenge runners and other people doing it, record yourself. If you watch yourself, if you watch your own footage, I do this because I'm a YouTuber, it is enlightening. It is amazing. Once you remove yourself from the pressure of the situation, you will see so much shit about your gameplay. It's uncanny. Like Jacob Geller made a fucking super excellent point in his Sekiro video that like, if you don't want to like find outside resources to help you, you can just record yourself and look at it. You will learn way faster than just grinding the boss, right? Highly recommend this. Also, come on, man. This grab attack's so funny. Heart stolen. And it's like he has to grab you twice. Like, come on, that's a funny ass grab. That's pretty cool on the lore and shit too. This is gotta be one of the easiest grabs to dodge in the game. Like this has to be. But even then, let's say hypothetically you get grab attacked twice by Melania or Messmer. Do you honestly think you were going to succeed on that attempt after you got grab attacked by Melania or Messmer twice and like nuked you? You would be outright dead, or you would be down like 4 to 5 healing flasks. Just because it's an insta kill, it's not even that much more overtuned than any other grab attack.
Difficult to learn because he will do multiple clone attacks in a row that makes it hard to see where the damage is coming from. He can also do a Metyr attack into a clone combo into a...
Like, I understand the point that the multi-attacks are like confusing. Like, I don't think it's right to say that it's like hard to understand where the damage is coming from, because like the damage is coming from him like slamming to the ground and swinging his sword. I feel like that's kind of obvious. I understand what he means. Like, it's a very confusing attack.
A high damage death explosion attack. I could not figure out how to dodge this, so I started using Bloodhound Step, and I would usually still get hit a bit. After a few days, I saw a challenge runner dodge it by jumping away backwards right from the Metyr, and then continuously running back right to avoid all the clone attacks without dodging, but I did not figure this out during my run. If Radahn seems...
So my path to learning Radahn was that we were talking earlier about like Rellana, right? When you have really quick follow-up attacks. And if it's just one attack like that, you can either early roll it, you can positionally roll the second one, or you can like jump it or strafe it or something, right? When it comes to multi-attacks, like with Rellana and with the multi-attacks in Radahn, if a boss hits 6 times faster than you can roll, immediately you should think, okay, I shouldn't roll that. Like, I literally cannot roll faster than the attacks. So the solution is probably not rolling related. So literally for the Metyr attacks, I figured it out. I just ran away from the meteors, dodged right, and then I just strafed it various directions until I tried to run away from it. Didn't work that many times. When I was really far, it worked, but not when I was kind of close. And then once I realized you can just run right, it's like, oh, you just strafe it. Like, that's it. You have to be a little bit away from him, but then you just strafe it to the right. And then you just dodge his like explosion. So the big fucking like hiccup is knowing that you have to roll his final teleport. All of them are 5 though. It's all the same hits, like dun 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 dun. And you roll the final one. So it's not like he does 4 teleports or like 7. He does 5 for all his teleport attacks. You just strafe him, roll the final one, and then you wait, and then you roll the fucking delayed explosion. Like, that's it. Did it take me 3 hours to figure that out? Yes. Is he the hardest boss they've ever made? Maybe ever in video gaming? Yes. But is it like impossible to learn? I don't know. I'm an alcoholic wagey and I figured it out. But like, yeah, those are completely psychotic attacks. But if you see a boss do 5 attacks faster than you can roll, the solution is probably not rolling. You should try to like do something different. You can't even shield crutch that attack, because if you block it, you get block stunned into like the full combo and it nukes you.
Seemingly infinite range purple gravity suction attack lands in phase 2. He does the most over the top death combo to punish.
Again, he tries rolling this, but the sprinting jump is way better for distance in like every situation. This attack is actually the easiest teleport to dodge, because all you do is sprinting jump away from the shockwave. It'll never hit you even if you get hit by the pull. And then for this entire combo, you can just run straight backwards from it. I figured this went out pretty quickly, actually. And then again, he finishes it with another shockwave. So it's like, okay, I jump it again. So all you do is just jump away, 4 attacks, jump again. The hardest part for me was the other ones, the meteorite one and the one he does from neutral, where it just like he does it when he's right beside you and does like 5 attacks with no like explosion at the end. That one's even easier to strafe to the right. Yeah, is this boss crazy? Absolutely. Fucking crazy boss.
Punish you. I don't even think you can avoid all of the damage after
But yeah, this is actually, in my opinion, very easy to dodge. This shockwave in phase 1, I think I figured it out first try how to dodge it. Literally first time I ever saw it. People like look at my challenge run shit and they say like, oh, well, like you're a tryhard, you're a loser, you don't like have a job, blah, blah, blah. I'm not good executionally. Like I honestly, maybe it's because I'm like so in the Souls community and I just like am very self-aware that I am a very, very medium-sized fish in a fucking huge pond, that there are just so many fucking better players than me that it's not even close. When I was learning these bosses, I would pick up on them pretty quickly and like learn them, but I would still struggle for like 1 hour of like still doing the dodge timings. Like Metyr's like triple head slam, I got hit on that shit for like 2 straight hours, and it's like the most straightforward attack to dodge. I am not a god. The thing that like separates me is that I just have the will to learn. I want to learn and understand the boss. I want to dig into there. I want to get some meat on the bone. Like, I don't think that like I'm just so much better than all of you guys in chat at this game. The point of the challenge run was to show people that if I can do this shit, anyone can do what I do. Anyone can do this.
Catch combo and hard to understand clone attacks, and worst of all, to Miquella's hair. I was more angered by this
Probably the worst part about this fight is the GPU tax, honestly.
boss than any other FromSoft boss, to the point that I almost said, this is stupid, I don't enjoy the game anymore, I'm gonna summon, get a great shield, and skip this bullshit boss. However, before I fully gave up, I decided to switch to a bleed build, and after 11 hours of total fighting, I managed to carve out a victory, which means that this boss took me longer to beat than any other FromSoft boss at a normal level, and is the only boss that ever got me to build switch. After I won, sure, I felt a sense of happiness and relief, but was it fun entertainment? No, not really. I was happy at the end because the suffering was over, not because I enjoyed the experience. Do you guys remember when FromSoft used to make fun games that challenged you in a unique way? I never thought difficult.
And they were so fair, hitless, and they had no jank at all. I loved it back in the day.
Difficulty was From's #1 priority. I thought difficulty was one tool they used to enhance the art, but now difficulty seems like the entire point of their games, and I don't think I'm enjoying it anymore. This DLC felt more like a job than entertainment to me. I guess From achieved one important thing with Radahn, which was to make a boss so hard that it'd probably take me hours to learn even with Mimic Tier. Summoning truly has become the intended normal mode. On a side note,
Again, it's like, because summoning exists, all the game is bullshit. The summoning exists as a mechanic. They didn't put it in there and then say, okay, now we can make all the undodgeable attacks and force people to summon and tank all these undodgeable attacks. Like, those things are not related, right? It's the same thing with like the base game of Elden Ring. Everyone was saying these bosses are literally impossible. They just are forcing me to summon. And it's like, I feel like that's just a weak beta mindset that like, I can't figure it out, so the game must be forcing me to summon and cheese their bosses. That's just what they want from me now. All of a sudden, after over a decade, they've just 180'd. It's just an excuse that we saw in the base game of like people saying, okay, these bosses are undodgeable. There's no time to heal. They don't have consistent punishes because summons exist, because they put summons in the game. So now they felt comfortable making undodgeable attacks and literally never letting the player heal. And what did we figure out about the base game? Oh, these bosses are actually pretty easy to fucking hitless and whatever. But the DLC changed it again. Oh, now they want us to summon again. I will say though, like Radahn is pretty crazy difficult. Radahn is bad because like you can't jump any of his attacks and you can't really strafe much of anything that he does, except for his multi-hits, which is kind of cool. But yeah, like he's bad because he's just a roll dodge boss. Like he literally is a roll dodge boss. He is hard carried by how difficult he is. Like that like dopamine rush you get from beating him. I don't even mind that Radahn's the final boss from a lore perspective, because like Radahn's my favorite character they've ever like written. Like just the strongest character design, so fucking cool. The bait and switch they did with the trailer to tease the game. Just this big fucking dude who like uses gravity magic. Just everything about him is just so Chad. Like He's amazing. I was actually pumped. I'm like, hell yeah, more Radahn. Let's go. If he wasn't that difficult, nobody would talk about him. Again, final boss of a DLC of a game that's supposed to be hard. Yeah, like they made him fucking really hard. I just wish he was more like Rellana, where like there was a lot more combat expression to be had. Radahn is more just like having role discipline and figuring out like 3 or 4 like kind of cheat moves.
Note, I wasn't a huge fan of the story. Fromsoft games have good lore, but
fuck you. Yeah, I definitely like Star Scourge Radahn more than Promise Consort Radahn.
The in-game stories are becoming stale and predictable. There are gods. Kill them. Every time. I thought maybe something would happen with helping Miquella ascend or something, but no. You never find him until the end, and then you
Why does he want to help Miquella ascend?
Kill him. I remember back when Matthew Matosis criticized Dark Souls 2 for wanting to kill the player more than it wanted to be a good game, pointing out things like the
Wait, what? That's a little bit confusing to me because, like, I don't care about the lore and he says that he does care about the lore. Miquella is like, it's like you said, Thirsty. He's a political opportunist. Would you want someone to be your god if they pitted their followers against them and threw away all their like loyal servants, literally just did not care about them at all, just fucking used them, then threw them away? Someone who would kill their own brother and then like destroy their soul just to get what he wants, just because he says, oh, I'll make this a gentle world. Like, yeah, okay, buddy. You fucking cast aside all of your fucking loyal followers, hated them to the death. Like someone who is a master manipulator, someone who lies and tells people what they want to hear, like, should that person be the god of the realm, especially when you were trying to be Elden Lord? Yeah, like the fucking dude has mind control powers. Like, why the fuck, like, should they be the god of the world? There is a reason you kill God. And it's also like, have you ever played like an RPG? Like, every RPG you kill God. Like every single one. If there was no reason to kill Miquella, you would just not play the DLC. It's like every JRPG is killing God with the power of friendship. You're right. You're right. It's kind of like easy stakes to set. And it's also just like a theme with like Japanese like culture and literature. So like that's just the thing. The narrative still roundly admonishes him at every turn. I empathize with his plight, but he is an asshole who needs to die. It's like the same thing of like, oh, revolution. What's the word? What's the root word? Revolve. It's the same shit. We overthrow the government. We put the new guys in power. Same shit, same corruption. It's just one cycle. Literature 101. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? And we already can see that Miquella is pretty fucking corrupt. Genichiro is more empathetic. Yeah, for sure. Meet the new boss. I was thinking about that The Who song too, Paid. Meet the new boss. Same as the old boss.
Firekeepers laughing about how much you'll die in the beginning, and the hub world having a death count. Matthew Matosis quoted Miyazaki as saying, "Difficulty was never the point. The games weren't designed to be challenging just for the sake of it. It was a way to pull you into the world." I think Miyazaki has lost sight of his original vision. Difficulty definitely seems like the point of the DLC. In this way, Shadow of the Erdtree feels more like Dark Souls.
Just kind of seems like the same shit people have always been saying. This time it's difficult for difficulty's sake. Okay, now this time it's difficult for difficulty's sake. No, but this time for realsies it's difficult for difficulty's sake. Like, it's just things that people have been saying for decades now at this point. It's kind of why people... like why we all sound like cultists and are brainwashed and are hive-minded. And especially why I was so aggressive in my like videos from a year ago, because we're so fucking fed up with hearing the same goddamn complaints lauded at every single game that they release. Every fucking time we have to hear the same year-long period of people whinging and complaining about the same shit that has existed in every single game they have ever made. And it's especially hard to swallow when it's coming from people that don't understand basic fundamentals about the game. It becomes a little bit grating. That is why a lot of cultists have like a short fuse and a thin veneer of patience.
Those lyrics are legit the thesis of the entire DLC and Miquella's character. He's a guy who talks and talks and talks about how much more compassionate and imaginative he'll be than his mother, but in reality he cannot see anything outside the Golden Order. This is most clearly communicated through the Erdtree simply existing in the state we find it in, And the genesis of his plans is literally rotten to its core.
Damn. Great symbolism. I've had this argument for a decade and a half. I'm tired of this shit. Yes, exactly, Stowe. I didn't even start playing these fucking games until 2018. And like, I am so fucking fed up with this shit. I've had it up to my eyeballs with the same shitty fucking discussions. And like, this game is exciting. There's lots to like enjoy and like talk about and get into and fucking complain about, with flaws and like real problems existing. But again, if you go anywhere on the internet and you try to honestly and earnestly talk about these discussions, the waters are so muddied with like, oh my god, Bayle has like roll catch lightning in phase 2, and like the camera is bad under Bayle when I roll underneath him, and like Rellana attacks too fast, and why is the healing so slow? And like, it just never ends. And like, you just can't have a good discussion about this game anywhere because no one is on the same page of like what is even reality in this game. It's just like, that's why I was so fed up and so tired when I made those videos. It helped me with my mindset for learning and enjoying Souls bosses. Well, glad to hear it, Paid. Glad to hear it. Sekiro bosses with a DS1 moveset, I'm gonna fucking lose it. Yeah. It's so funny that like people are critiquing Elden Ring looking back fondly on Sekiro, and like same shit. People look back on like Sekiro looking at DS3, blah, blah, blah. Sekiro, I feel like, was way worse at launch for the first year of like people complaining about how bullshit it was. And now it's like all these people be like, Sekiro was magical, but now Elden Ring's bad. What planet do I fucking live on, you know? Sekiro needs easy mods. Yeah, if you like Sekiro and you don't want it to be easier, you are ableist and you hate physically disabled gamers because you're a selfish elitist asshole. Like, do you guys remember that? If you do not want Sekiro to be made easier, then you are ableist. You guys remember that? For like a fucking year? God, that shit drove me nuts. Again, it is okay to dislike these games, but like, I just hate when we're muddying the waters about shit that isn't actually a problem. No one is here saying these games are perfect and flawless. People that enjoy these games often have way more complaints about these games than the people that dislike them, by far and away, because they understand them better. And we don't get to have those problems addressed or discussed often because no one knows about them. And also, I feel like this type of like criticism and shit is the biggest gatekeeper for these games. When new players or people who have never played these games hear the games being called completely unfair, broken garbage, that doesn't make them want to play the game or pick them up or buy them for 40 bucks. And it's something that I did. Why I was so pissed off at Anderson for years was because I watched his videos and he made them sound like unfair, janky slogs of masochism. And I'm like, that sounds like the opposite of a fun game. And I just avoided playing these games for much of my life because of that. Like, these two moves are exactly the same. You have to guess. It's like, okay, well, that sounds dog shit. Why would I do that?
Achieves the difficulty in very different ways. Many of the bosses did not feel like immersive fights to me. It felt more like the developer trying to trick me into dying as much as possible to the high damage roll catches and delayed attacks, and my inability to safely heal. Shadow of the Erdtree is the only Miyazaki-led Souls title that I wish never existed. If instead
You guys think Shadow of the Erdtree should never have existed? Anderson's video convinced me to cheese Pontiff with summons for the first time, which I still regret. But even then, like, they recognized Pontiff as kind of a hard difficulty spike, so they gave you 3 summons.
Instead, the time was spent developing Elden Ring 2, they could reset the difficulty and progression trees, giving me a reason to explore a new open world. This DLC reminds me a lot of
You can still level in the DLC. You can still level up your character, you know? They don't have to like reset you to 0.
Of Tears of the Kingdom. It's not as content barren as that game, but both games allowed me to take off my rose-colored glasses and see the open world genre for all its flaws. I once saw Elden Ring as an
Hell yeah, brother. Open world games fucking suck. I've always said it. I do not want to play open world games. They are too time consuming. I just don't want to play them.
unrivaled masterpiece when it came to exploration. And while I still think base game Elden Ring is the best open world I've ever played, it also does fall prey to all of the shortcomings of open world game design. The good content
That's kind of the thing. Like, if you make any game, like, there is no such thing as the perfect game, right? Even when you talk about genre, like, every genre has its trappings. Like, you have to make rewards for exploration in open world games. What we got was the best open world game I've ever played. Do I want to play an open world? Not really. Was it tolerable? Absolutely. If FromSoft makes a Metroidvania, oh my God, dude, I would kill for that. Just like DS1, but more Metroidvania. Give us some like movement abilities. Oh,
And is spread thin across vast expanses of empty space and underwhelming side dungeons. Breath of the Wild proved that people will enjoy doing boring if it feels like their discovery and they get a reward. And Elden Ring DLC took out the reward part of the formula, and it does not work at all. Now I
there's no rewards in Elden Ring.
think I'm getting over this open world craze. That's not to say I wouldn't enjoy an Elden Ring 2, but I think I'd enjoy a linear, more condensed experience over this. If the next Zelda or FromSoft game is open world, I hope it's a smaller open world with quality as the main focus instead of quantity. And
I think it being open world probably did make more people try it. I honestly do think it made it more successful, probably, even though I do not like open worlds. I do not want it to be open world.
in FromSoft's case, fun as the focus instead of difficulty. I've been pretty negative throughout this video, so let me state that there are definitely some groups of people who will enjoy this game, and that the hype isn't just because of the honeymoon phase. People who are satisfied with pretty visuals as the main reward for exploration, people who like beating bosses with overpowered builds, and people who like to perfect boss mechanics through many hours of trial and error will all enjoy Elden Ring DLC. Also, the music was quite amazing, it was better than the base game, and some of From's best. However,
Amen.
all of these positives were not enough for me to feel the FromSoft magic. I remember when Joseph Anderson said at the end of his Elden Ring critique that Elden Ring made him lose interest in From's future Souls-like titles that are played in the style of Dark Souls. At first I thought Joe was taking it a bit too far, but now I'm in the same boat as him. I do not have any interest in another dodge hit FromSoft game that is hard for the sake of being hard without introducing new mechanics, and I might start to skip learning
But they did introduce new mechanics.
boss mechanics with summons and OP builds if this keeps up, and only play the games for exploration. If they make a game that is hard because it introduces new mechanics like in Sekiro, I'll be interested in learning it, but I've had enough of this game design approach.
Why doesn't he just use the deflecting hard tier then? You can just play this game literally like Sekiro. Also, in my Anderson video, people gave me shit for like saying you could play it like Bloodborne with the HP regen, but Melania's Great Rune is endgame. You can still fucking use Great Stars or what's that other lifesteal one? Blasphemous Blade, Taker's Cameo, and Godskin Swaddling Cloth, and do the same thing, have an HP regen build. Plus, in the DLC, they also added a physic tier that gives you HP regen, further enhancing that build. And again, he says Anderson's critique. I really don't consider that shit a critique. Like, I feel that critique should be well researched and like provide an interesting perspective or something that makes you think about something in a different way. Like, to me, a lot of these critiques just feel like glorified game reviews, but the game reviewer is so stubborn that they're ignoring a majority of the mechanics in the game, and they don't allow any other perspective or playstyle to taint their one pure, true playstyle and the way they play. The word critique just is kind of such a meme to me at this point.
Would not recommend this DLC to any of my friends as entertainment, but I could recommend it as a dare. I dare you to try to put up with these overly aggressive, overtuned, hard-to-learn bosses. I dare you to try to do it without summons. The game is more fun to watch someone suffer through on Twitch than it is to be played.
And again, like, I feel like that this rhetoric is the thing that's been around forever, and I think has been the ultimate gatekeeper of these games. Draco, thanks for the follow. What's up? Much love. When people in the greater gaming sphere say that these games are unfair, they have undodgeable attacks, there's no safe heal punishes, there's inconsistent windows to attack bosses, jumping is useless, all the rewards are bullshit and contrived, that is what keeps people from playing these games. Oh, it's just a masochistic slog where you'll die thousands of times and you will not enjoy it, and if you beat it, you have a gaming badge of honor for beating the hardest game ever made. That is what keeps a lot of people from playing these games. Way more so than elitists who unironically enjoy the game saying that like, hey, it's not that bad if you want to experiment. Damn, I did not want to be like an asshole about that video, but I drank a lot and it got harder as we went on. It is interesting to see like the perspective of someone that just absolutely hates the DLC. I think it really just boiled down to he didn't enjoy the bosses and he didn't enjoy the exploration. I feel like there's reasons you can like dislike both, but I just don't agree with a lot of the reasons you gave. How did you think Midra was a chick? The thumbnail? How do I see the thumbnail? Eek artificial difficulty by a random.
Another issue I have is all the strawman arguments that people constantly make. And you'll see this in our last video when we posted clear evidence of bad hitboxes. The only thing the FromSoft bots can respond with is get good or skill issue.
Ah, yes. Everyone always gives me straw man arguments that I will now straw man. I love how people only give me straw man arguments like get good. Straw man argument definition is the informal fallacy of refuting an argument different from the one actually under discussion. Ah, yes. Making up like an argument and then tearing it down. I see. Dude, like the most brain dead shit was on my Anderson video. People say that I strawman his fucking arguments, even though he literally says that shit. And I did my best to keep him within full context. Plus, at the very start of my video, I said, I am going to show clips of him. Go watch his video so that I will not take him out of context and please form your own opinion. And people said I strawmanned him. Even on the dang a JM video that I showed, that was the reason for me making that entire video. You guys will not believe this shit. Look at this fucking shit. In defense of Margaret regarding Joseph Anderson. Hey, this is like how you actually fight the bosses, right? All right. I have not watched the video. Here is some arguments that you might say in this video that I have not watched. Here is my rebuttal to those made up fucking arguments. This is fucking insane. He did not have to leave this fucking comment. And then guess what? In this fucking thread, about 160 comments down, he says, oh, hey, I did watch it now, but I think my original arguments still stand. Goodbye. This is so crazy. He's so smug. And then like, he literally watches his own footage and then just like lies to people. Like, the guy pisses me off. Thank you, Jam is too nice.